You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 5th part of What If Naruto Joins Digimon World. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of KitsuneDragon on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Previously on the series, the Sovereign Ones shall forever reign over this world as supreme rulers of both digital and real worlds. The voice said, and then a large blue light formed from the portal made by Juggernaut X and onto the roof of Hypnos. The Sovereigns, Naruto questioned. Naruto. It's coming, Gargomon and DORUMON said. Naruto glared at the light. This was one battle that needed to be won. But Naruto could only think one thing as he felt the power coming from the bio-emerging Digimon. Will we survive this? Now, Naruto, DORUMON and Gargomon looked at the pillar of sky blue light as it descended from the swirling void of color that made the portal that was Juggernaut X program. The beam of light disappeared along with the swirling mass that made up Juggernaut X. The sky lost its blood-red color and revealed the glittering night sky, lamp lights illuminating the surrounding area. Gargomon, Naruto said as he continued to stare at the building. I need you to stay here. DORUMON has more experience, and besides I can't operate both of your D-arcs while fighting this Digimon. The energy coming off that thing is immense, Naruto said. Gargomon nodded as she looked through the now fading transparent shield that made up the X antibody's defense. I understand, Naruto, Gargomon said with her head bowed. Naruto and DORUMON looked at each other and then turned to leave. Naruto was unaware of the fact that as DORUMON was about to leave, Gargomon had grabbed his hand. The dragon Digimon turned back and looked with a confused at his feline Digimon companion. Gargomon, he asked, his orange eyes staring into her blue ones. He noticed Gargomon was fidgeting as she stood there, holding his hand. Gargomon, are you all right? But he was cut off as Gargomon suddenly went a bit closer to him, raising her head to look up at the slightly taller Digimon, and her lips met his in a kiss. DORUMON's eyes widened in shock, but suddenly felt himself melt into the kiss and return it. For a few seconds this continued, but to them it was an eternity. When the two parted, Gargomon looked down with a blush and DORUMON could only stare into space before he shook his head. Be careful, he heard Gargomon say. The X-antibody Digimon smirked and nodded. Of course, I'll come back for you, Gargomon, he said, and then took off after his tamer, who was now aware of DORUMON not being by his side. Naruto looked around and then, just as always, Kyubimon appeared out of nowhere. Ah, there you are, and there you are, he said, turning to DORUMON. What kept you back? Gargomon wanted to tell me to be careful, he partially lied. Naruto nodded. Kyubimon, you know what to do, Naruto said. Kyubimon nodded. He had been aware of his part in digivolving as he noticed Naruto always used to look at him in an odd way before anyone began to digivolve. Gotcha, Naruto, and then the red triangle on his head glowed and shone its light over the tamer and Digimon. Naruto drew the Digivolution card, which now glowed red along with DORUMON's X-antibody crystal. Digimodify, Digivolution activate. Digivolution. DORUMON's old interface symbol glowed red before he was surrounded by swirls of reddish-violet data that then formed a swirling egg of reddish-violet data. DORUMON digivolved too. DORUMON's skin and fur peeled away to reveal a much large form, bound together by reddish-violet squares of data. The skin then reattached itself along with fur. The reddish-violet egg of data exploded to reveal DORUMON's champion form. A large dragon, only a little bit shorter than Growlmon, emerged. Black fur with purple zigzag patterns coated the Digimon. 2 large wings on the back were black with purple zigzag patterns, but on the underside they were pure white, just like the snout area. Hands, feet, wrists, and ankles along with the tip of the new Digimon's tail. A collar of white fur formed at the base of the dragon's neck, and the ears were more pointed than before. Sharp teeth lined its jaws, and 3 crimson claws on each of the dragon's forelimbs and back limbs seemed to shine. Orange eyes seemed to glow in their sockets. Finally, the red triangle, outlined in gray, the old interface, lay in the center of its forehead. Gargomon, the large dragon Digimon, roared before bending down low before Naruto jumped onto his back. The ebony-furred reptile flapped his massive wings and with a few powerful flaps, took to the skies. Naruto held on with chakra as the dragon flew up quickly before landing softly on the roof, the only sounds being their low breathing and the clicking that Garugomon's crimson claws made as they made contact with the surface of the helipad roof of the Hypnos building. Takato and Gilman, along with Rika and Renaman and Henry and Terrierman, were at the base of the building waiting for Naruto to do something, as they knew he had flown up there with Dorugomon. Having seen the two, Gargomon, why aren't you with them? Takato asked. Naruto does what is best. He said he wouldn't be able to manage with two Digimon against this Digimon. The energy coming off of it is too immense in order for him to protect us as well as fight the threat, the cat Digimon explained. The three other Tamers and Digimon nodded in understanding. Naruto was a battle strategist and spent most of his life fighting. His decisions were usually acknowledged in the highest regard except by Rika. Be careful up there, Whiskers. Naruto and Dorugomon scanned the area as they looked around for the enemy Digimon. Where is he? The blonde tamer asked. I can't smell him, however. Dorugomon quickly jumped and twisted in the air as a large object came crashing down on where they stood. It doesn't mean I can't hear you, the dragon Digimon growled, his orange eyes going slitted. Show yourself, coward, and fight like Mon. A dark chuckle flew through the air as sound waves that were reached the winged beast's ears. Dorugomon turned and narrowed his eyes as he looked at the opponent along with Naruto. There stood a large yellow-furred tiger with a mess of purple stripes across the golden fur. A large red scarf was worn around its neck, and above each limb on the thigh area were violet shields, each with a spike protruding from the center. Two large golden, purple-striped wings, each with pure white feathers attached to the muscular wing area. Gleaming white teeth and claws made a stark contrast to the night area as it glared at Dorugomon, its long tail swishing behind it. Good reflexes, young Digimon, the tiger said. Naruto drew out his D-Arc and scanned the Digimon, however. What the fuck? There's no information of this Digimon, Naruto said. Dorugomon and Naruto, who had jumped off his partner's back, stared at the tiger Digimon as it smiled evilly at them. Huso, guess we'll just have to go in and take him down, Dorugomon said. Naruto nodded and then drew two kunai and laced them with wind chakra. Ikuzo, he roared, and the two charged the Digimon. The tiger leapt to the side as Dorugomon tried to slash at him with his claws, but then Naruto appeared in the Digimon's face and charged chakra into his kick and slammed his foot into the tiger's nose. The tiger Digimon growled in anger, but not before switching to pain as Naruto's kunai struck through its tough hide and dug into the synthesized proteins that made up its flesh. Naruto then raced forwards and held out his hand. Wind and chakra swirled into a compact orb as Naruto jumped into the air and slammed the ball of chakra against T-Tiger's face. Rasengan, he yelled, and then the attack sent the tiger skidding backwards slightly before Dorugomon appeared and slammed full force into the side of the unknown Digimon. The dragon jumped and flipped before slamming his tail onto the back of the tiger and then picking it up with a bit of difficulty before throwing it into the air and opening his mouth. Tower Metal, a large steel sphere surrounded by sparks of blue, red, and violet electricity shot forth and went towards the descending tiger Digimon. However, the tiger flapped its wings and then spun in the air. Its tail suddenly changed into an octagonal, tri-section staff. Samurai Tiger Tail. The tail, now a bow bang, struck forth and slammed against the metal orb and sent it back towards its user. Naruto cursed before flashing through hand signs. Daten, Doryudon no Jutsu. He yelled, and the earth dragon materialized from the concrete of the helipad before swallowing the power metal, and exploded as the metal orb detonated from the large amount of charge piled into the orb. The earth dragon dying along with the explosion. The tiger's smile grew wider for some reason as it wiped what looked like blood from its lips with its paw. You opponents are much more interesting than my others in the digital world. The Sovereign One would be most pleased if I bring you to him, the tiger Digimon said. Naruto gritted his teeth as his D-Arc gave off a beeping sounds. Naruto drew it from his pocket and watched as a holographic image of the Digimon appeared. Nihiraman Ultimate Level. Naruto exclaimed, his eyes wide with shock. A mythical beast Digimon. Attacks are Samurai Tiger Tail and Armored Tiger Tail. Naruto read what little information he was given on the opponent. Naruto and Dorugomon were in shock at the news that this Digimon, Nihiraman, was an ultimate level. However, you will only hinder the plans of the Sovereign One. Who is the Sovereign One? Is he one of the Digimon sovereigns? Dorugomon asked. Nihiraman growled. His red eyes glowed in the moonlight. How do you know of the four great Digimon? We met them, they brought us here in the real world, Naruto replied. Ah, yes, the Sovereign One told me of a child and a Digimon, who contains an evil power within its Digicore, were sent here by the great other Sovereign One. Azulongman, Nihiraman mused. Who the F is the Sovereign One? Naruto bellowed. The tiger Digimon growled again. Don't you dare raise your voice to me, human. I am a diva, I outclass you and this Digimon who has chosen to side with the enemy. Nihiraman said. You may outclass us, but Naruto and Dorugomon got into fighting stances. That doesn't mean you will assure victory over all of us. Nihiraman's eyes widened as the blonde human disappeared from view. Naruto reappeared behind the tiger Digimon. His body was cloaked in a red aura in the likeliness of a tailless kitsune. His eyes crimson, fangs and claws bared, and whisker marks darker and more wildly patterned. A harsh kick to the ass sent the tiger skidding forwards before Dorugomon's tail clashed against his face. But Miharaman recovered quickly, and then his tail changed into the Bao Bang staff and collided with the claws Dorugomon intended to slash at the Diva with. The tiger then backflipped as he redirected Dorugomon's attack as Naruto slammed into the ground, creating a small crater. Naruto then formed hand signs and Dorugomon opened his jaws. Power Metal. 5 electrically charged orbs of steel launched forth from the maw of the ex-antibody Digimon. Katen, Gaokakyu no Jutsu, he yelled, and a ball of Kyubimon chakra-powered flame flew from Naruto's lips as the heated oxygen sphere went towards the metallic spheres. Lightning and fire mixing to create a deadly combination of burning and shocking sensations if contact was to be made, which Miharaman did not want. Collaboration Jutsu, Gaokadeba no Jutsu, and the fireball barrage rained down like meteors from the heavens. But Miharaman spread his majestic wings before bringing them upwards and then downwards in a flapping motion to take himself upwards and avoided the rain of fire. The tiger Digimon then front flipped and his tail slammed into the ground. Armored Tiger Tail. The impact shook the whole roof and caused Naruto and Dorugomon to lose their balance as the shockwave reached them and sent them skidding backwards. Dorugomon quickly took the hit for his tamer as Miharaman attempted to attack the blonde with his Bao Bang tail staff. Dorugomon's fiery eyes glowed before he grabbed Miharaman by his throat and slammed him into the ground. The tiger roared, but was silenced as Dorugomon fired a power metal into the tiger's face, earning a large explosion for his troubles. The smoke cloud that was generated cleared away to reveal Miharaman standing up, but his face was twitching on account of the electrical charge messing up his facial nervous system. Dorugomon was sent skidding back as Miharaman struck out with his powerful tail. Samurai Tiger Tail. He yelled and the attack struck Dorugomon in the stomach. Then Miharaman followed up by crashing his head into the dragon's stomach and then slashing with his claws along the chest area of Dorugomon. Dorugomon roared in pain and Naruto grew more angry before the red chakra around him grew more concentrated. His eyes and mouth grew a black outline of some kind and his fangs and claws lengthened. The chakra cloak began to take on a solid, bubbling form. 2 large ears of chakra twitched as if they really picked up sound and a tail swung behind him. Naruto raced forward and crashed into Miharaman. "You don't hurt?" Dorugomon the Jinchuriki growled. Both pairs of crimson eyes stared into the other. Dorugomon's eyes became more fiery looking and then he took on a metallic look. Metal coated his fur, mainly around his head in the form of a helmet. His tail became covered in steel and then the tip split off to look like 3 live wires. Yellow teeth and red claws glinted in the moonlight. Dark Slide Digivolution Dex Dorugomon. The metallic dragon Digimon yelled as the dark chakra influenced his dark digivolution. Miharaman watched as the two vanished from sight and 2 powerful forces knocked the air out of his lungs as both of Naruto's large chakra claws slammed into his solar plexus, sending the tiger upwards. Dex Dorugomon roared and then slammed his live wire tails against the face of the tiger Diva. Miharaman roared in pain as the wires electrocuted his body. Dex Dorugomon then slashed with his claws, earning many a hit upon the figure that was the tiger Diva before knocking Miharaman away with a punch to the face. Miharaman flew back, but spread his wings to stop his movement, and growled before the two began an aerial battle. Dex Dorugomon slashed with his claws, but the tiger dodged swiftly and countered with his own claws. However, the metal coating the zombified Dorugomon didn't allow damage to be caused. They danced a battle of destruction as claws and tails lashed out against each other, the sound barrier breaking several times from the collisions their attacks made. Dex Dorugomon quickly kicked Miharaman in his chin before slamming multiple punches over the facial area. A resounding crack was heard when a fist crashed into Miharaman's nose. The tiger gasped before one of Dex Dorugomon's arms took on a glow of silver mixed with bloody crimson. Metal cast. The arm would have taken off Miharaman's head had the Diva not ducked in time. Miharaman's tail quickly changed into the Bao Bang. The tiger Diva lashed out and struck the dragon several times in his head before slamming shoulder first into the chest of the metal-plated Digimon. Then a front flip allowed the tail to slam into the head of Dex Dorugomon. Samurai Tiger Tail. The attack sent Dex Dorugomon downwards into the ground next to Naruto. The shockwave of the landing caused Naruto to barely skid back had the Kyubimon's cloak not allowed him to stick to the surface just as his natural chakra did. Naruto stretched out his arms and the claws extended towards Miharaman. The tiger Diva managed to avoid them as he descended towards Naruto, but the Kitsune Jinchuriki smirked and then his claws retracted back to him before he leapt up to meet the tiger Digimon. His right hand cocked back and a rasengan swirled to life. Its violet-colored glory spun rapidly before it impacted with Meruemon's samurai tiger tail. Kyubimon rasengan, samurai tiger tail. A shockwave resulted in the air. A resounding boom flew from the epicenter where the two attacks Bao-Bang received a spider web of cracks in the effort to remain intact. However, Naruto began to feel pain all over his body as he heard Dorugomon clutching his body in pain. The pain was enough to give Meruemon a chance to somehow increase the power of his attack as well as overpower the Kyubimon rasengan, but managed to do both with difficulty. Naruto watched in shock. His Kyubimon rasengan was dispersed from the power of the tiger tail and slammed into his body, sending him rocketing back to Earth. The tamer landed atop his similarly demonic Digimon. Meruemon then front-flipped, gaining momentum before crashing his tail into the ground with tremendous force. Armored tiger tail. The tiger Diva yelled out and the shockwave released was enough to send the damaged tamer and Digimon off the edge of the building. Gargomon was clutching her body as she felt a burning sensation in her stomach. Her widened eyes began to flicker between shining crystal blue, violet, and bloody crimson. Her fangs retracted and lengthened in various times. The others watched in horror at the change happening to Gargomon before her eyes settled on crimson. Her claws remaining lengthened and her pupil slitted. Her fur gained a light red hue to it, and then her normal growl, which was a bit high-pitched, was deep and demonic. However, before anything could happen, the feline Digimon, not being accustomed to the Kyubimon's power flowing into her, had been knocked unconscious by a wary Renamon who chopped her in the back of the neck. The cat Digimon fell unconscious. Renamon, Rika exclaimed. Rika, something is not right with Gargomon. Maybe the Kyubimon demon Naruto told us about that is indirectly causing his Digimon partners to become dangerous. The Golden Fox Digimon said. That is a possibility, however we can't know for sure, Henry said. Henry, what's that falling from the sky? Takato asked. Well, Takatomon, I think it's a star, look how bright and red it looks, Gilman said with happiness, but his eyes widened along with everyone else's as they saw it was Naruto. They asked themselves, but then saw the large metallic dragon next to him. Is that supposed to be Dorugomon? Takato asked in fear. Even unconscious, both seemed to be quite intimidating as they finally crashed into the ground, creating a sizable crater. The group grabbed Gargomon and watched the duo. Naruto's one-tailed form receded and became his normal self, and a soft white and red glow formed around Dorugomon as he changed back into Dorugomon and then into Dorumon. Is he? Henry paused. Rika checked his pulse and sighed in relief. Whiskers is okay, but what is up there that had managed to beat Dorugomon or this evil form he has? The red-headed tamer asked. What happened to the Ice Queen? Terrierman asked. Terrierman. Henry groaned. Momentai, I'm just curious. You're gonna get yourself beaten up if you don't learn when to not say certain things, Terrierman, Henry said. The three younger tamers looked at their superior, and Naruto groaned as he was able to rest himself into a sitting position. His now sapphire blue eyes gazed downwards before turning to Dorumon. What did I do to you that I changed you into that? Naruto held his reptilian partner. Naruto, did you learn anything from fighting that Digimon? Henry asked. Meruemon, mythical beast Digimon, very strong. Can't remain conscious for long, Naruto whispered before he coughed up a glob of blood onto the concrete street. Come on, Whiskers, stay with me. Rika paused as she saw Naruto look up at her with a foxy grin, his teeth stained red from the blood he hacked up. Don't worry, Rika-chan. Kyubimon good for more than just simple conversation. Give me an hour and I'll be fine, Naruto said. But she didn't believe a word he said as Naruto grunted in pain and reflexively turned to the side and felt blood and bile pile up his throat before he released it all out in what would become his little pile of thrown up shit from his body. Naruto coughed a bit before turning back to Rika. Just kick that tiger's ass for me, Rika-chan, the elder tamer said. Rika nodded as Naruto fell asleep, his head resting next to the heads of his unconscious Digimon partners. Gargomon, from the Kyubimon's chakra indirectly affecting her, and Dorumon, from the fight and impact they made with the ground. Rika growled and then drew a card from her card case and swiped it. Digimodify, Digivolution activate, she yelled. Kalumon's upside-down triangle glowed on his forehead. Digivolution. Renamon Digivolve 2. Renamon's form changed to resemble a large golden and white-furred kitsune with the edges of the white fur that glowed with mystical blue flames on the paws. Instead of one tail, 8 more had sprouted out, now 9 blonde-colored tails, each tipped with white fur that seemed to also glow with mystical blue flames just like her paw fur. The bottom of Kyubimon's mouth was white and 2 purple slash marks were shown underneath her still glacial blue eyes, and a large white mane extended along the entire length of her neck. The yin-yang symbol was shown above each of her 4 legs and one lay on the center of her forehead. A white and red rope tied in a bow with 2 golden bells attached to it was wrapped around her neck. Kyubimon. The 9-tailed Kitsune Digimon jumped and began to run up the side of the Hypnose building, and then it crossed paths with Kyubimon upon her reaching the roof. Mihramon smirked as Kyubimon's icy blue eyes gazed into his fiery red ones. "Don't worry, Whiskers, we'll take down this stupid tiger," the red-haired tamer said as she watched Kyubimon disappear over the edge of the roof as the Fox Digimon climbed onto the flat surface of the roof. The tiger vanished into the darkness as Kyubimon attempted to track him. However, Mihramon jumped out from what seemed like nowhere and bared his sharp fangs before clamping them down on one of Kyubimon's tails. The Fox Digimon howled in pain before slapping Mihramon in his face with the other 8, causing his jaws to slacken slight. Kyubimon then freed herself and charged forward, but the Diva smirked and then held up his clawed paw and smacked across the face of Kyubimon. The blonde, miniature Kyuubi no Kitsune skidded along the broken ground made from Naruto and Dorumon's battle. Kyubimon fanned out her tails and each one lit up with a ghostly blue fireball on each tip. "Foxtail Inferno," she yelled. The fireballs raced towards Mihramon, but the Tiger Diva smirked before forming his Bao Bang staff, the cracks still visible, but Kyubimon was not able to notice that as the tail slammed into her fox fire attack and snuffed the flames. Kyubimon then jumped and spun in the air as blue flames surrounded her being. Dragon Wheel. The bright blue fires of the Fox Digimon spun and launched forwards towards Mihramon as a large fire blast which took the form of a dragon. The fiery entity roared and struck Mihramon, but the tiger took no damage to the surprise of Kyubimon before the tiger vanished again. The tiger circled around his victim and smirked, his crimson eyes glowing in the darkness. Then a roar was heard as the predator struck out and spun with his tail, staff at the ready. "Samurai Tiger Tail," he yelled. The tail crashed into the side of Kyubimon before it was hit in the area where the knee joints were, sending her to the ground as all 4 of her knees buckled. Mihramon then raced forwards and crashed into Kyubimon's down form and sent her off the roof. But as she flew off the edge of the roof, Kyubimon seemed to float in the air before gravity could take its effect on her body. The tiger spread his wings, racing through the air, appearing above the Fox Digimon in a blue of speed, and his Bao Bang slammed into Kyubimon's damaged form. Samurai Tiger Tail, and the tail sent her downwards at a breakneck speed. Rika watched in horror as her partner fell to the ground, hitting a lamppost, which luckily stopped Kyubimon from having a serious fall that would have killed her as she slid off the post and onto the ground. The large fox reverted back into Renamon. "Renamon, are you okay?" She saw the fox's eyes closed. "Speak to me." Renamon stirred and weakly opened her eyes, her form flickering as her data configuration was damaged. "Rika," she gasped, "so strong, took me down too quickly for me to make a good attack." Renamon said, "It's okay, you're going to be fine," Rika said with a small smile. "Don't force yourself to talk." Ultimate, possibly mega-level Renamon slipped away into the dark embrace of unconsciousness as she said those last 4 words. Rika quickly laid Renamon's head in her lap and wiped off some of the dust on her fur. Terrierman looked at his downed friends and glared upwards where Mihramon waited. "Henry, I'm going," Terrierman said. "Terrierman, you can't. That Digimon easily defeated Kyubimon as well." "Dorugomon, what makes you think you can?" the Asian tamer exclaimed in worry for his partner. "Henry, this Diggy Baka hurt my friends, your friends, we can't let them get away with that. Now get me up there," the bunny dog Digimon demanded. Henry's eyes widened. He never saw Terrierman act so angry before. "Naruto taught us, those who follow rules are trash, but those who don't respect or care for their friends are worse than that," Henry whispered, and then a determined look filled his gray eyes. Henry drew a card from his card case and gripped it tightly. "Let's do this, Terrierman. Digimodify, Digivolution activate." The card was scanned through the green D-arc before Kaluman's powers activate. The smallest of the tamed Digimon was bathed in a red light and then began to digivolve. Digivolution. Terrierman was surrounded by an egg of swirling green data. Terrierman digivolved too. Terrierman's skin peeled away to reveal a large green rabbit covered in wireframe pattern, or blue squares for a simpler term. The skin then reattached itself as Terrierman's body grew into that of a larger rabbit. His face and ears were entirely green. The edge of the ears, the body and muzzle of Gargomon being a tan color. A red diamond lay in the center of the champion level's forehead. 2 red slash-like markings were on Gargomon's cheeks. His hands were replaced with Gatling guns. A string of ammunition was strapped across the trigger Happy Bunny's chest, and he wore a pair of navy blue jeans. Gargomon then positioned his guns downward and fired. Gargo Laser. The downward force of the bullets caused Gargomon to apply Newton's third law. The downward force by the bullets as they left the barrel of the Gatling guns caused Gargomon to exert an equal and opposite force that allowed the large rabbit Digimon to take himself skyward. Gargomon landed soundly on the roof and then noticed the shadow of the beast Digimon passing next to him before it receded into the darkness of the night. Not even the stars and light of the moon shed its light on the area as Gargomon frantically looked around. Suddenly Gargomon's ears twitched before the large champion Digimon ducked beneath the ultimate level before the tiger Diva skidded and growled before circling again. Gargomon looked around again and then his Gatling guns began to whir rapidly. "Come on out little kitty here kitty kitty," Gargomon taunted. When nothing happened, Gargomon decided to go on the offensive. "If you won't come out, I'll blast you Gargo Laser," the rabbit Digimon yelled. The emerald laser bullets flew through the air around the entire roof area. Mihiramon, although invisible to Gargomon, was swiftly avoiding the attacks, some of the bullets ricocheting off the shields on his limbs. Then Mihiramon jumped and tackled Gargomon to the ground. Gargomon landed with an oomph, but quickly ruled with the fall and turned, his Gatling guns glowing green where the bullet chambers were before he swung wildly. Bunny pummel. Gargomon felt his guns hit something solid and smirked when he heard a grunt of pain. "Gotcha," the rabbit thought before spinning and kicking Mihiramon in the chin. Mihiramon growled and swiped his claws and the attack was too quick for Gargomon to dodge as it hit the young champion Digimon in the rib area. Gargomon fell to the ground before he was kicked in the stomach. Gargomon nearly fell off, but used his ears to hold on before pushing himself upwards and flipping. Using the bird's eye view his jump got him, he saw the shadow of Mihiramon as the tiger spread its white wings and roared. The tiger Diva launched itself at Gargomon before taking the rabbit down onto the already damaged roof. Gargomon made a crater and Mihiramon landed, his entire body weight resting atop the back of Gargomon. Gargomon groaned and stood to his feet, slowly, as Mihiramon got off and went back into his shadowy surroundings to strike again. Gargomon then realized something. "This kitty cat is always circling me before he attacks, then I can get him." Gargomon's eyes narrowed, shifting left and right, his ears twitching and every muscle in his body tensed as it prepared to dodge and counter-strike. Mihiramon smirked in the shadows before launching himself forwards after he stopped circling Gargomon. Gargomon smirked before turning and lashed out with a kick and nailed Mihiramon in the jaw. But it did no effect as Mihiramon continued to charge forward and then crashed into Gargomon with enough force to knock him off the building. "Ah!" the rabbit Digimon yelled as he fell from the roof. Henry could only watch as Gargomon fell, but then reverted back into Terriermon, allowing him to catch the rookie Digimon in his arms before he made contact with the unforgiving earth. "Terriermon, are you okay?" Worry was evident in the Asian tamer's voice as tears formed at the edge of his eyes. The tears threatened to spill over, but he held them back as Terriermon, even in his damaged state, managed to lean his head up and whispered something into Henry's ears. The green Diarc-wielding tamer's eyes widened before he turned to the only fighting tamer, Takato. The goggle-wearing tamer turned to his friends as he was gazing at the downed Renamon, Terriermon and Dorumon. "Huh, yeah Henry?" Takato asked. Gilman watched in interest as to what Henry had to say. "Mihiramon, the tiger circles like a shark before he attacks you, so be careful and make sure Gilman keeps his ears peeled," Henry advised. "Gotcha," Takato responded with a determined nod. Takato then took out a card from his case as the upside-down triangle on Calumon's forehead shone over Gilman. "Digimodify, Digivolution activate." The card was scanned as Takato swiped it through the red Diarc. Digivolution. Gilman was surrounded by a swirling red egg of data. Gilman digivolved too. Gilman's skin then peeled away to reveal a darker red form that was patterned in a wireframe pattern. The skin then reattached itself to form a larger, more powerful form of Gilman. The egg of data exploded to reveal a larger version of Gilman, except the ears were now like spikes and two blade-like protrusion came from his elbows, and Gilman seemed to look a lot more reptilian-looking with a mane of silver-white hair growing from the back of his head. Black band-like patterns with digicode on them were shown on his legs, forearms, and around the thick part of his tail. The 0 unit was emblazoned on his feet and hands, while the digital hazard symbol was located on his left shoulder. Growlmon. Takato then took out another card and swiped it. Digimodify, Hyper Wing activate. 6 silvery white wings materialized from nowhere onto Gilman's back, 3 on each side. The wings flapped, kicking up an average amount of dust before flying up to the roof. Growlmon's golden eyes stared up at the roof as he neared the top, his rounded pupils dilating in anger as his viral nature began to surface, as it always did in the field of battle. Growlmon landed and then raced forwards and felt the presence of another Digimon on his right as the wings dispersed into data pixels. Growlmon's right elbow blade sparked as blue energy glowed with power. Growlmon then made a slashing motion as he intended to slice the flesh away from his opponent's body. Dragon Slash. The attack nearly made contact, but Meruman smirked and managed to bend his body out of the way, and skidded away into the shadows to circle around and strike. Growlmon, he growled in anger and frustration as he searched for his opponent. He could smell the stench of blood on the tiger's claws. He could hear the heavy, slightly labored breathing of the ultimate level Digimon as it circled him. But then everything went silent and the scent of Meruman disappeared from Growlmon's sense of smell. Given the fact that it was dark, Growlmon was suddenly finding himself fighting deaf, blind, and unable to smell. The dragon Digimon snarled as his eyes attempted to find the tiger Digimon in the darkness, but was suddenly struck in his side. Then a headbutt caught him in the stomach. Growlmon stumbled, but managed to regain his footing before Meruman released a roar that resonated throughout Growlmon's ears and caused Growlmon to clutch his ears in pain. But he held through and stopped before opening his mouth, and orange and red flames morphed into a ball. Pyroblaster. Growlmon yelled and then fired the Pyroblaster attack rapidly. Multiple fireballs landed in the dark abyss that made the roof. The collisions that the flaming projectiles made with the roof caused pillars of flame to erupt from the point of contact. The fires illuminated the area and Growlmon smirked as he saw the tiger Digimon leaping away from one of the larger spheres of heated oxygen. Growlmon then rushed forward with speed he didn't know he possessed and then stretched out his arms. The blade protrusions on his elbows glowed with electric blue energy. Dragon Slash. The attack impacted and Meruman roared in pain as Growlmon slashed the side of his body. Growlmon then turned and his tail crashed into the same exact spot where the Dragon Slash landed. The dinosaur dragon Digimon followed up with multiple slashes with his long ivory claws before kicking Meruman in the side. Meruman skidded backwards and recovered, but as he turned to look at his crimson-scaled opponent, he was only able to see the glow of the fires as a comet-like ball of flame shot out of Growlmon's maw. Pyroblaster. The attack sped towards Meruman, but the tiger quickly positioned one of his shields, the one on his foremost right, to take the attack. An explosion resulted from the contact between the Pyroblaster and Meruman's shield, but the tiger, as the dust and smoke cleared, was revealed to be unharmed. But if you looked closely, a small crack could be seen on the right frontal shield. Meruman then ran forward and knocked Growlmon to the ground before jumping off of the dragon, and his tail changed into the Baobang, the spider web of cracks still visible from its battle against the Kyubimon rasengan from Naruto. Samurai Tiger Tail. And then Baobang created a shockwave of dust as it impacted with Growlmon's stomach. Takato yelled out in pain and clutched his arm and stomach in pain. Takato ... What's wrong? Henry asked in concern for his friend. Naruto groaned as he finally regained consciousness in time to see the goggle-wearing preteen fall to his knees. Oi, I wake up from a fight and then first thing I see is Takato falling to his knees. Naruto mumbled, I'm guessing Meruman's putting up a fight. Yeah, Rika, look, Naruto's awake. Help him to his feet, Henry advised the red-haired tamer. Rika nodded and gently rested Renamon's head from her lap to the cold concrete before aiding with Naruto's standing as Henry turned back to Takato. Come on, Takato, please tell us what's wrong, the Asian tamer pleaded with his friend to tell him the cause of his pain. I feel every hit, Takato said, and then the joint pain then transferred from Growlmon to himself caused him to black out. Takato groaned as he opened his eyes and found himself floating in a strange area of space. Everything was red, black, and white, all swirling into a mix of strange shapes and other things. Tamer, a voice called to him. Takato turned, looking around for the source of the voice. Huh? Who said that? Tamer, over here, the voice said again. Takato turned to see Growlmon, half of his face and torso covered in darkness. Growlmon, you're okay, Takato said with happiness, but then noticed that Growlmon had called him Tamer and not by Takatomon. You don't recognize me, do you, Growlmon? Takato asked. Growlmon chuckled. Of course I do, Takatomon. It just seemed like much too serious a moment to be calling you Takatomon, Growlmon said. Takato nodded. However, Tamer, I need you to help me in this fight. Nanny, sure, Naruto taught me to fight somewhat, but I can't fight a Digimon. Takato exclaimed. Tamer, I cannot do this alone, our joint strength is what makes me stronger. You must help me, Tamer, Growlmon pleaded. Growlmon, Takato's reddish-brown eyes stared into the single golden eye of Growlmon since the other was shielded by the shadows of this seemingly weird void of Takato's dream. Then he felt his head nod. Growlmon, you're my partner. Takato then floated towards Growlmon, hand outstretched and touched Growlmon's claws. We'll fight together until the bitter end, although I prefer it not come to that no matter what. Takato screamed as he made contact with Growlmon, and then a flash of light enveloped him and he found himself awake, screaming and clutching Kyubimon's fingerless hand. Takato. Why are you screaming? Kyubimon asked, tilting his head, and why are you holding my hand? Naruto chuckled. Having a nightmare there, Takato? Naruto asked, and then grabbed Takato and hoisted him to his feet without any trouble. Gogglehead fainted. Hahaha, what a wuss, Rika said. However, all joking was cast aside as Takato glared upwards. Growlmon, you're not alone in this fight. He then reached into his card case and clutched a card. The card glowed as Takato touched it and changed into a sapphire color. The golden yellow capital D with a pixelated dinosaur coming out of the space in the D formed. The almighty blue card. The card of the Digimon Tamers. I will not let you leave me, or any one of us. We will fight using all our power. Using the power that granted us the blessing to become Tamers in the first place. We will not succumb to defeat. Takato roared and then grabbed his D-Arc and slashed the blue card through the red D-Arc. The triangle on Kyubimon's head glowed even more brightly as Takato slashed the card. The card was scanned and then a bright red light in the shape of the 0 unit flew up from the D-Arc screen and into the down Growlmon's snout where his 0 unit symbol lay. Growlmon opened his eyes, which were filled with red from pupil to sclere. Growlmon stood to his feet and roared at MangaMuse, much to the Diva's surprise. The provided text converted to lowercase. Crystal Matrix activate. Kyubimon yelled. Digimodify. Matrix Digivolution activate. Takato yelled. Matrix Digivolution. Growlmon Matrix Digivolve 2. A carbon copy of the Matrix crystal flew around Growlmon before settling itself into the nose where the inverted 0 unit lay on Growlmon's snout. The 0 unit glowed as Growlmon underwent his transformation. Growlmon grew in size and his torso was suddenly surrounded by an armor casing made of chrome digizoid. 2 vernier were attached to his shoulders, and an assault balancer extended like a cable from the back section of the torso armor. His arms were encased in black metal and along the edges of the black metal casing were long, curved, chrome digizoid blades. A metal, muzzle-like armor was formed around its jaws, but it didn't act like a muzzle as he could still open and close his jaws. The harness for the blades were adorned with the symbol of the digital hazard, and the Digi code on its stripes reads, which translated to digital monster. The Digivolve form of Growlmon roared before slashing its blades in a menacing way, yelling his name. War Growlmon. Takato's D-Arc suddenly beeped and showed the holographic image of the newly Digivolved Ultimate Level Digimon. Alright, Growlmon Digivolve into War Growlmon, a cyborg, ultimate level Digimon. His armor and blades are made of chrome digizoid and he uses the vernier on his shoulders to be able to fly. He uses the metal muzzle-like armor on his jaws to act as a restraint to keep from going berserk. His attack are Radiation Blade and Atomic Blaster. Takato read. He smirked as he looked up on the roof. Show that stupid tiger what you got, boy, Takato thought. War Growlmon roared and charged towards MangaMuse and lashed out with his blades aiming to cleave the tiger Diva in two. But MangaMuse dodged all the attack before countering with swift powerful swipes of his claws before turning around and kicking out with his back legs, slamming them into War Growlmon's chest, sending the ultimate Digimon skidding backwards. Takato also skidded backwards. This bond thing might end up killing me, Takato gasped as he felt the pain in his chest. But we won't give up, Naruto nodded. I have taught you well, Naruto said with a smirk. That you have, Naruto, Takato said. War Growlmon roared and managed to graze MangaMuse with his digizoid blades, but the tiger Diva dodged the attack. MangaMuse jumped into the air and tackled War Growlmon to the ground before backflipping into the air, and just before touching the ground, he transformed his tail into the Bow Bang and slammed it into the ground. The roof shook, but due to its thickness it was able to withstand the one of the many shockwaves produced by this attack. Armored Tiger Tail. A shockwave was released from the tail as it crashed into the roof and slammed into the mechanized Digimon. War Growlmon roared in pain before managing to roll with the shockwave and climb to his feet. The two ultimate level Digimon charged each other in a great display of power. Shockwaves filled the air as the sound barrier broke many times from their collisions. War Growlmon slashed with his claws, but MangaMuse ducked, but was unable to dodge the attack from War Growlmon's tail as the mechanized dragon crashed into his face. War Growlmon then tackled MangaMuse, sending the tiger skidding backwards before a clawed paw found its way to War Growlmon's jaw, knocking back the dragon Digimon's head. MangaMuse then backflipped, using the momentum of the flip to perform a powerful kick to the jaws, sending War Growlmon up off the ground. However, the vernier suddenly activated and 2 blasts of blue flame came forth from the vernier to allow War Growlmon's flight capabilities to come into effect. MangaMuse growled and spread his wings and the two battled in the air. MangaMuse moved to the side to avoid a bite from War Growlmon before headbutting the dragon Digimon's chest that caused War Growlmon to fly back from the force, but also caused one nasty bump to form on the head of the tiger Diva. The Sovereign One will never be defeated, never. MangaMuse roared before going up a bit higher and then descending upon the recovering dragon. Mihiruman performed a series of front flips to build momentum before his tail transformed into the powerful trisection staff that made the Bao Bang Samurai Tiger Tail. The Bao Bang tail struck out with devastating force, but Growlmon looked up in time to see it coming. His arms moved amazingly fast with the added bulk of the chrome Digizoid armor, and then the blades on his arms glowed blue and crackled with power as they cut through the air. Radiation Blade. The two electric blue blades collided with the tail, and the two attacks seemed to be evenly matched, and it was just that it seemed to be. The cracks on the tail began to race across the entire surface, and the sound reached the ears of both digital combatants, which brought about two different reactions. One of surprise from Mihiruman, as he never in his life had seen anything happen to his tail, at least nothing such as it breaking apart. Growlmon was chuckling and a grin spread across his face beneath the power restrainers that lined his jaws. Growlmon roared in exertion as he put more force into his attack. "You've been." The blades pushed more and the cracks began to show more and pieces of the steel-hard tail began to fly off. A very bad kitty. The radiation blades broke through and slashed into Mihiruman, causing two large gashes to form on the tiger's stomach. Growlmon then slammed a shoulder tackle into the damaged area of Mihiruman before using the vernier to take himself a bit higher to do a front flip and slam his heavy, muscular tail into the head of Mihiruman, sending him downwards and creating yet another crater in the once nice helipad roof of the Hypnos HQ building. Growlmon descended onto the surface of the helipad and watched as Mihiruman struggled to stand and managed to do so with difficulty. The gun ports on the torso armor began to glow with red energy, poised to blast Mihiruman. "You will never hurt this world again," Growlmon yelled. Mihiruman's eyes widened as he stared into the barrel of the laser. "Impossible. You could have aided us in the conquest of this world." Mihiruman roared. "You betray your own kind for the sake of this world." "No, Mihiruman. I betray my kind for the sake of the lives of my friends, now prepare to be eradicated." Growlmon's cannons gave off a loud whirring sound as two large spheres of energy gathered in front of the gun ports. Atomic Growlmon's attack became fully charged. Blaster. Takato finished as the attack was launched. The dual beams of crimson were launched from Growlmon's cannons and struck Mihiruman with destructive force. The tiger Diva roared in pain before his entire digital existence was literally disintegrated into nothing. Nothing was left as his body exploded into red data flakes, and even those were destroyed by the atomic blaster. Growlmon gave a roar to the heavens in victory. The vernier allowed Growlmon to descend to ground level where his friends and tamer were. Takato ran over to the large Digimon and hugged his claw. "You did really well out there, boy," Takato complimented his Digimon. "I could not have done it without you." My tamer Growlmon's eyes changed into upside down us, indicating he was smiling beneath the metal muzzle. "Way to go, Growlmon." Naruto cheered. Rika and Henry gave nods of satisfaction. The other Digimon were already awake and healed to the point they could at least stand and walk. "I am proud to have been your teacher," DORUMON said to Growlmon. The mechanized dragon nodded to his former sensei. "And I was proud to have been your student, DORUMON sensei," Growlmon replied. "Dude, that was awesome." Takato was telling the truth. His Digimon is real, Kenta said. "Chumley, you did good out there," Kazu congratulated his friend. Takato looked surprised to see his two best friends on the scene. "Takato, I don't like Gilman like this. Change him back the socket puppet using girl. Ack." Jerry said, looking at the gargantuan dragon Digimon. Growlmon suddenly became enveloped in a silvery glow before he reverted back into Growlmon and then back into Gilman. "Is that better, Jerry?" Gilman asked. Jerry squealed at Gilman. "Kawaii cutie." Everyone's sweat dropped. Rika and Naruto were the only ones to say anything. The two tamers looked at each other and then at Jerry. "You did not just call Gilman kawaii," they exclaimed. "Cool would be a better term to use," Kazu said. The entire group agreed, causing Jerry to cry anime tears, and the rest of the then laughed at her reaction. Kyubimon quickly jumped onto Naruto's sun-kissed mop of hair and smiled. "Like I said once before, humans are so silly, but it's never dull around here. No, the light of Digivolution thought." The tamers, their Digimon, Kazu, Kento and Jerry all left. But up in the sky in a helicopter a good few meters from the battle site, Yamaki was amazed at what just transpired. "Those kids actually beat that thing. This will require further research." Yamaki then told his pilot to take him home. Naruto's apartment. Kyubimon had decided to hang out at the apartment as he found Naruto and Dorumon to be, as he had said, more fun than the others. Naruto was more than happy to welcome the little cream puff into his humble abode. After a few hours to stay up and eat a dinner of rice, chicken and a side of ramen with some cream puffs for Kyubimon, the four went to bed, or at least two of them did. Gargomon had opened the window and was overlooking the shining, colorful lights of the buildings of Shinjuku. Her eyes focused on them, but her mind was focused on something else. Why did I kiss him? He was in shock when I did it. I don't even know why he kissed back. Does he like me, or doesn't he? Is he going to reject me? All these thoughts raced through her mind. She closed her eyes and sighed in frustration. You're still awake. Gargomon's eyes widened and her claws poised to strike as she rapidly turned, but relaxed when she saw it was just Dorumon. Oh hi, Dorumon. Any reason why you're still awake? The purple-furred dragon sat next to his feline companion on the windowsill enjoying the cool night breeze. Well, I couldn't sleep because there has been a question in my mind, Dorumon said, looking over Shinjuku. Please don't let it be about that kiss. Please call me Sama, please. Gargomon prayed to whatever deity would help her. Why? He asked. Gargomon decided to play slightly dumb because she wasn't sure, but was partly sure of what he was asking. Why what? Why what? She asked. Before I went to fight Meruemon, why did you kiss me? He asked. Gargomon looked at Dorumon with wide eyes and mentally cursed. What kiss? She asked nervously with a slight blush playing across her face. Dorumon glared at the feline. Gargomon, please, I'm not in the mood for your playing dumb. Now answer the question. Dorumon paused. Why did you kiss me? He asked again. Gargomon looked down as she attempted to avoid Dorumon's eyes, but the dragon would not grant her such luxury, and he put his claw underneath her chin before pushing her face upwards so her blue eyes met his orange ones. Gargomon, please, I need to know, Dorumon said. Gargomon gulped as she tried to think of an alternative answer, but her mind betrayed her and didn't come up with any. I will answer you, but I need to know one thing, she said. Hi. If I told you the truth, would you still see me as how Naruto had put it, precious to you? She asked. Dorumon looked like he had been slapped in the face as the question was one he was not expecting. He shook his head rapidly before answering. Of course I would. Gargomon, you're my friend. I'll always deem you precious to me. I'd kill for you if it would help make you happy, Dorumon said with a smile. Gargomon nodded, but her mind only focused on the one word he had said. A friend, that's all he'll see me as. But there's no turning back. She took a deep breath and steeled her nerves for whatever was coming. So now you can answer, Dorumon encouraged her to do so. Gargomon sighed and looked into Dorumon's eyes and gulped loudly. I kissed you because. I. Dorumon, she stuttered, but paused as the words wouldn't leave her throat. Come on, Gargomon, spit it out, he said, his voice slightly raising in volume. A few seconds passed, but Dorumon was beginning to become impatient and saw Gargomon turn her head. Gargomon, just tell me for Kami's sake, he yelled. He grabbed her head and forcefully turned it to face him, his gaze hard. Boo quickly softened as he saw the sign of tears in her eyes. Alright, you wanna know why I kissed you back then? Alright, I'll tell you. It's because I love you, okay? I love you. Are you happy now? She growled with her crystal blue eyes filled with what looked like sadness and rejection. Dorumon's claws slipped away as he stared at Gargomon in shock. Why you? You love me, he stuttered. Gargomon nodded. But I realize now that you'll never me is nothing more than a friend, Gargomon whispered loudly enough for Dorumon to hear. She twisted her body and jumped off the windowsill to land on the carpeted floor of the apartment building. She knew neither Naruto nor Kyubimon would have woken from their sudden outbursts, and then she walked over to the couch, but paused as she felt something grip her arm. She turned around to see Dorumon's clawed hand, paw clutching her arm. She struggled to free herself from his grip as he dropped down from the windowsill and faced her. She stopped when she saw his smile, showing his sharp teeth. Now, Gargomon, why would I turn down the only Digimon I came to love more than a friend? He asked, and then rested his forehead against her own, their eyes staring into each other's. But you said. I said that because I wasn't sure how you felt about me. However, now that I do ... what would you do if I were to say I love you too, my dear sweet Gargomon, he said. Gargomon blushed heavily and a smirk tugged at her mouth. Well, if you were to say that, I imagined that I would scream with glee and... Her voice was cut off by the sudden feel of Dorumon's lips on hers, and her eyelids fluttered as she felt a rush of emotions ranging from butterflies in her stomach to pure happiness. She kissed back, and the two remained like that before falling asleep together on the couch wrapped in an embrace. However, a young blonde shinobi had watched the entire scene, from when Dorumon had left the room. He smirked, his sapphire orbs staring at the new couple before taking the blanket he had provided for Gargomon and draping it over the two Digimon. He chuckled to himself as he saw the smirks that played upon their faces as he closed the window and turned on the living room AC so it wouldn't get too hot for the two fur-covered Digimon. Naruto watched the couple one more time and went back to the bedroom, looking back once more before closing the door to his bedroom and retiring to sleep with only one thought in mind. Dorumon and Gargomon, Who would have thought? The day after the encounter with Mihiruman, the tiger diva and follower of Angewomon, was actually quite uneventful. Our blonde protagonist was bored out of his mind and decided to take the 3 Digimon occupants of his apartment for a little run along the roofs. Naruto, Kyubimon and the new couple of Gargomon and DORUMON were roof hopping throughout Shinjuku as they went to the park, as Naruto had decided to send a call to Takato, and the others telling them to meet him in Dorumon's shed. Kyubimon giggled with glee as he clutched Naruto's hair to prevent himself from falling off the head of the blonde shinobi tamer. So, you two lovebirds have had this thing for each other for how long? Naruto asked. Gargomon and DORUMON looked at each other before shrugging. I don't know, probably since we first met, I guess, DORUMON said. Yes, it is, the feline Digimon said. Naruto nodded. He was happy for the two to have found love with one another and smiled back at them. So, Naruto? Gargomon asked. Naruto nodded in acknowledgement. When are you going to ask out Rika? DORUMON finished. Naruto's eyes bugged out of his head and he nearly lost his footing as he landed on another roof. Nani? He exclaimed. Oh come on, Naruto. You're our tamer, we know these things. Now come on, tell us, the two partners whined. Kyubimon was too busy having fun as Naruto leaped from roof to roof to pay attention to the current conversation, which was a real mood breaker considering this one was embarrassing while Kyubimon's was happy. Well, to be honest, I was thinking of asking her out today, he said sheepishly. Really? The 2 Digimon yelled out in surprise. Naruto was known to be straightforward and quick acting, but with matters concerning Rika, well, he wasn't. However, this was completely unexpected. Hi, I mean, it's been months since I've been crushing on her. It slowly developed into something more than a crush over that time, and well, I think it's time I make my move before I regret not taking the chance when I had it, he explained. DORUMON and Gargomon looked at each other before back at their tamer. Well, it's about damn time then, Gargomon said with a smirk. Naruto rolled his eyes. Oh shut up, and the 3 decided to pick up the pace to reach the park. Shinjuku Park, Gilman's shed. Naruto, DORUMON and Gargomon walked up the steps to the shed as Kyubimon glided behind them as he rode the wind using his massive ears. Upon their arrival, they were greeted with the sight of Takato and Gilman, and Terrierman and Henry sitting in a small circle with serious looks on their faces. The tension was high as the 4 glared at one another. What do you think's going on? Gargomon whispered to her reptilian boyfriend. The dragon shrugged in response to his girlfriend's question. I don't know, but it looks like they're mad about something. Let's watch, DORUMON said, and then reached into Naruto's pocket and opened it to reveal a small bucket of popcorn. The 2 Digimon munched on the snack as DORUMON placed the scroll back into one of Naruto's many pants pockets. Ikuzo, Takato yelled. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. The circle of 4 quickly thrust out their hands, with everyone having scissors, while Gilman, unable to bend his claws, was only able to form paper. The red dinosaur slumped his shoulders, while the other 3 laughed, and the 4 outside, yes, Kyubimon's sweat dropped at the ridiculous display. Guess this just isn't your game, huh boy? Takato told his Digimon with a chuckle. Rock, paper, scissors. Naruto questioned. Really? And the 4 entered the shed. Hey, you called for the dynamic trio, well, quadrupio if you count Kyubimon, DORUMON said. Gargomon flicked her boyfriend's snout. That's mean to disregard Kyubimon like that. Gomen, Gato-chan the purple-furred dragon apologized, earning a small smirk from the feline. It's okay, Doru-kun, no harm done, Gargomon said, giving DORUMON a kiss on the cheek. The 4 in front of them stared with wide eyes. Ooh, did I miss something? Terrierman asked. You kissed DORUMON, why? Takato asked. Because we're together, as in now have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship status, obviously, Gargomon said, rolling her eyes. Oh, Naruto, were you aware of this? The blonde nodded, earning a period of silence in response. Oh okay, the 4 said. Then the group turned around as they heard the sound of 2 pairs of footsteps. They turned to see the fiery-haired female tamer and her KitsuneDragon partner walking into the shed. So, what's the big emergency, Whiskers? Rika asked as she leaned up against the wall, Renamon doing the same. Can you hurry it up too? I have to go to theater with Oba-chan soon. Okay, now the reason I have called you guys here is because I haven't told you my entire story, he said. Story? They all questioned him, other than Gargomon and DORUMON, who knew the truth of Naruto's past and his escapades in the digital world. None of them knew in detail about Naruto's meeting with the 4 most powerful Digimon ever. Your entire story, meaning that you didn't tell us something from when we first met you? Henry asked. Naruto nodded. Hi, if you remember correctly, I never really gave you the details of how I met DORUMON, he said. What does your meeting with DORUMON have to do with this? Takato asked. Naruto waved his head. I'll get to that, but first my story. You see, after I found the blue card like you all, I was sent to the digital world from my parallel Earth. There I ran into a village that was being attacked by a Tyrannomon. There I met Dodomon, DORUMON's baby form. Then during the fight he digivolved into DORUMON, his rookie form, and with my help we were able to defeat the Tyrannomon. We had defeated Tyrannomon by attacking its face, or more precisely its eye, in which I shredded it with a rasengan. Then as we're falling we were transported to an unknown area of the digital world. Do you know what the place is? Takato asked. He just said it was unknown, Baka, Terrierman pointed out. Terrierman, don't insult people, it's rude, the Asian tamer scolded his partner. The long-eared bunny dog slumped and they continued to listen. When we were transported there, DORUMON and I were face to face with the four most powerful Digimon in existence, the Sovereigns. Terrierman and Renamon's eyes widened. Impossible, they exclaimed. Renamon, you know these sovereign guys? Rika asked. Hi, but they are said to be just myth. Ah, but my dear Renamon, I as well as DORUMON can assure you that these four are quite real. For you three in Gilman, the four sovereign Digimon are what you would call the gods of the digital world, seeking to keep the peace and protect the digital world. Digimon, I have noticed, are sometimes linked to real-life myths and legends, such as the Sovereigns, who appear to be based off of the four guardians of the earth. You mean like Genbu the Turtleon? Naruto nodded. Hi, exactly like that. Each one rules one of the four cardinal points, or the points of the compass. In the north is Angewomon the turtle. In the east is Azulongmon the dragon. To the west is Bahumon the tiger, and to the south is Jukwayamon the phoenix. Also there is a fifth sovereign, the one who governs over the sovereigns, being more powerful than all four combined Fanglongmon. Nanny, but he is even more of a legend than the sovereigns. Terrierman yelled. Well, he's not anymore. Now then, as I was saying, after our little run-in with the Soverings, Angewomon granted me the knowledge about the digital world, how it is made, the information on how things are run, digivolution processes, and also those who protect them, the Devis, Naruto said. The Devis, the three Tamers, and their Digimon questioned their superior. Naruto nodded. Miharaman is one of them, he added. Nani, you can't be serious, Whiskers, Rika proclaimed, waving her hands for emphasis. Naruto looked at her with a serious look in his sapphire orbs. I assure Rika, I am completely and utterly serious concerning this matter, he said. The Devis are the protectors of the digital world in areas where the sovereigns are not needed. Each sovereign has 3 Devis to serve them. All the Devis are ultimate level Digimon. Only the combined forces of a few champion-level Digimon or another ultimate or higher-level Digimon can defeat them. Miharaman was a follower of one of the sovereigns, and therefore is or was a Diva, which one he is subordinated under. I do not possess that information. The blonde said. I see. Miharaman was talking about a Sovereign one when I was fighting him, DORUMON said. Hi, DORUMON Gargomon, do you know anything about the Devis? After all, you have lived in the digital world longer than any of these 4, Naruto said. Gargomon shook her head. The Devis, sovereigns, they were all myths in our eyes, the feline replied. The group sighed. Well, Naruto, your information was much needed. At least we have an idea of what we will be facing, Henry said. Hi, arigato, Takato said, and then got up and left for home. Oh, by the way, seeing as how we're all tamers and stuff, anybody want to go for a little patrolling mission with me? No, I have to watch Suzy while Aka-chan and Aru-san are out. My other siblings are at their friends' houses and they won't be back until later this afternoon, Henry said. As I said earlier, I have to go to theater with my Oba-chan, Rika replied. Takato looked hopefully at the blonde shinobi tamer, but slumped as he received a shaking head from the blonde. Gomen Nasai, Takato, but I'm going to be busy for today, Naruto said as he patted the shorter boy on his head. Takato nodded and then said goodbye to Gilman and the others before heading home. The others were leaving too, but as Naruto, DORUMON, and Gargomon were leaving, DORUMON remembered something. Oi, Naruto, the purple-furred dragon exclaimed. Naruto looked down at the shorter individual. Oh, hi. Don't you have to ask a certain red-headed female something? DORUMON asked. The blonde Kyubimon Jinchuriki thought for a while. Red-headed female meant Rika-chan. The thing to ask her, Naruto's eyes widened. Phew, so he cursed and went back to find Rika. He ran after her and saw Renamon wasn't around. Oi, Rika-chan. The usually monotone tamer turned to see the boisterous blonde running up to her. Yeah, Whiskers, what do you want? Well, there's something I've been meaning to ask you, he said, scratching behind his head as he always did when he was either embarrassed or nervous. Okay, what do you want to ask? Naruto paused and swallowed some saliva as he suddenly felt his throat go dry. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Naruto sighed and face-palmed himself. Hurry up, Whiskers, I have to go meet Oba-chan in a few minutes, Rika growled. Naruto nodded and took a deep breath to calm his nerves. Okay, here goes, he whispered to himself. Okay, Rika-chan. I was wondering if maybe you're not busy this evening. Would you consider? He froze. Consider. She encouraged him to go on. He rushed down the sentence so fast Rika's brain couldn't process the words that just flew from his mouth. Nani? She asked, tilting her head. Naruto sighed again. Troublesome, he thought. Great, now I'm getting like Shikamaru. Okay, Rika-chan, are you busy later this evening? He asked. Rika thought for a while and she shrugged in response. No, not really. I'm free this evening. Why? She asked. However, she was feeling this sudden need to become nervous, which she slightly managed to suppress. Okay, that's good because I was wondering if maybe you would like to go on a date with me later this evening, he said. Rika's violet gray eyes widened in shock. Her mouth hung open and she couldn't utter a word. Only a few short breaths were heard as she was trying to calm her mind. She shook her head side to side. You want to go on date? She asked. Naruto blushed lightly, but nodded affirmative. With me? She asked, a blush surfacing on her face as well. So, Rika-chan, what do you say? He asked, his blue orbs holding a slight hopefulness in them. But he knew not to set his expectations too high in case he got shot down. When she didn't reply, Naruto turned to leave. I'll give you some time to answer. He was turning away, but was caught off guard when Rika suddenly grabbed his arm and barked out a yes. Naruto turned back around to face his female friend. Care to repeat that? He asked. I don't think I heard right. Did you say yes? He asked. Rika blushed heavily and a smirk tugged on her facial muscles and she nodded. Hi, I will go on a date with you, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, she said. The blonde tamer's brain suddenly fried as he stared at the girl before him. His foxy grin formed on his face before he grabbed Rika in a hug. You said yes, you said yes. He grabbed her, was jumping up and down. Rika blushed at the close proximity between their bodies, but couldn't help but laugh at the actions of the blonde. Naruto twirled her around before kissing her on the cheek. He then set her down. So 6 o'clock, I'll pick you up at your place? He asked. Rika was shell-shocked, but managed a nod. Naruto smiled cheekily before back-flipping away, and then took off to go and tell Dorumon and Gargomon. Rika touched her cheek as her violet gray eyes stared at the area where Naruto disappeared. I'm going on a date with Whiskers with Naruto, she smiled and then went off to meet her grandmother at the theater, and to absolutely not tell her mother about the interesting little going out session with her Naruto. My Naruto, where did they come from? With Takato. Takato had arrived home an hour ago and was currently reading a manga book. As he flipped through the pages, he sighed before closing the book and tossing it on the ground. His thoughts wandered to the little tidbit of information Naruto had given them. It's really weird. Even Digimon have gods in their world. Then again, we have no proof that our deities even exist. Only science is trying to prove that they are not, that it's all a chance of fate that something has come to be what it is, Takato thought. Wow, I never realized how smart I think I sound when I think to myself, great, I'm talking to myself in my head. I wonder if we have donuts, I'm starving. The goggle-wearing tamer sat up and went downstairs to the bakery area. As he reached downstairs, he took a donut and began to munch on it when he heard his mother. Takato, the young woman called. Takato turned, his face stuffed with donut particles. Yes, Aga-gan, waft to you wangth, which really meant yes, Aka-chan. What do you want? Takato, don't talk with your mouth full, his mother glared at him. The young 12-year-old swallowed and chuckled nervously. Gomon, so what do you want? He asked again. Oh, some of your friends are here to see you, she said. It's a big crowd. I didn't know you were so popular, she said and gave him a kiss on the cheek. Aka-cha, and he whined, wiping the saliva from the kiss off his face. He then walked to the door and his reddish-brown eyes widened in shock as he saw Kenta, Kazu, and Jerry all standing with a group of children from his class. What are you all doing here? He asked. Takato, come on, let them see him, Kenta said. See who? Gilman. We want to see Gilman, the children chorused. Takato's eyes widened as he then turned to glare at Kenta, Kazu, and Jerry, unleashing a small amount of killing intent, which he had learned to use from Naruto. Jerry, Kenta, Kazu inside. Now he growled. He allowed the three inside. He then turned and smiled at his other friends. I'll be right out. He then slammed the door and turned to glare at the three. What the hell is wrong with you? He whispered angrily. What do you mean? We just want to see Gilman. Kazu said. Okay, which one of you three told all those people about Gilman? Takato asked, his eyes scanning them like a printer would a sheet of paper. Kenta and Jerry stepped back, leaving Kazu standing there by his lonesome, and to feel the wrath of Takato Matsuki. Kazu, Takato growled. Oi, don't be like that, chumly. Come on, we're friends, right? True, we are, and friends are supposed to trust each other. I trusted you with the secret of Gilman and you went and blabbed it out towards the whole class. I have every right to end our friendship right now and kick you out, Takato growled. Kazu shivered. He had never seen Takato so angry, but eased up once he saw the glare leave Takato's face. However, I'm not that kind of person, so I will take them to see Gilman. But know one thing. If anything happens to Gilman due to this, I will call Naruto for you. Kazu nodded. Oh, your little blonde friend, haha. He think he can fight? Kazu asked. The door opened to reveal said blonde. Huh? What's all this talk about me? Naruto asked. He had left Dorumon and Gargomon back at the apartment since they were only bothering him about his date with Rika later. Oh hey Naruto, want some bread? Mrs. Matsuki asked. Naruto nodded and then placed the money on the table and caught the bag of bread that had been readily prepared for him since he came to buy 3 loaves of bread on a daily basis. Where do you put it all? She asked him one time. Naruto smirked and didn't reply. Takato, what's all this talk about me? Naruto asked. Kazu, tell him, Takato said. I talked about Gilman and told the class about him and now we all want to see him to prove that Digimon are real, Kazu replied. Naruto's eyes widened and then looked at the 3 consisting of Jerry, Kenta and Kazu. I see, well then Kazu, I believe your name is. Kazu nodded, but was shrinking due to the fear in him as Naruto began to growl in anger. Listen and listen good. Takato is my friend and I am one of the few he has trusted with the information about Gilman. Now I hear you and your big mouth blabbed about the secret and now that group of people want to see the overgrown dinosaur. Naruto's glare intensified. Now I'm going to let you off with a warning. Do anything that will cause Gilman's existence to become known to the public and you will find yourself in a lot of pain. Naruto grabbed Kazu by the scruff of his shirt and hoisted him a good few feet off the ground with 2 fingers. Naruto's eyes flashed quickly from blue to crimson, but Kazu didn't notice as he was being hoisted off the ground. Understood, Naruto said. Kazu nodded and was dropped onto the ground with a thump. Good. He turned around and began to walk out. Yani, Mrs. Matsuki, Takato, he said cheerily as if nothing ever happened. The 2 Matsukis waved goodbye to the blonde. Takato took Jerry, Kenta and Kazu back outside where the other classmates were. Wait. Okay guys, follow me. I'll show you where he lives, Takato said. Shinjuku Park. Takato walked ahead of the others as he explained about Gilman's characteristics. His name is Gilman, a Digimon I created myself. He's virus type because of it, and he's really strong. His signature attack is Pyrosphere. That sounds so cool, one girl said. I wish I had a Digimon. Being a tamer would be so cool, a boy said. The group stopped in front of the shed where Gilman was and Takato walked in. Gilman, you here boy? The brown-haired preteen asked. A low growl was heard. 2 glowing yellow eyes pierced the darkness of the inside of the shed which caused some of the children to nearly piss themselves. Then the growling stopped as Gilman walked out with a confused look. Takatomon, did you call me? Do you have any bread? Gilman asked. Cool, the class exclaimed. See, I told you guys he was real, Kazu said. Takato introduced his class to the large lizard. Gilman, these are my friends. Friends, this is Gilman, Takato said, gesturing between the 2. Gilman raised a clawed appendage and waved. Ohio, Takatomon's friends, Gilman greeted the people. Alright, guys, Gilman's our little secret, so if anyone blabs to anyone about him you're going to answer to me and our meeting will not be so pretty, Kazu announced. Also my ass will get handed to me by Naruto. He's scary, he added as an afterthought. Now that we've been introduced, let's play with him, Kazu exclaimed. The class cheered before taking Gilman by the claws and leading to the open grassy area of the park. Takato sighed. At least no one comes to the park on a Sunday again, Takato thought in relief. He then went to go and play with Gilman and the others. With Rika. Rika was currently sitting in an aisle seat at the theater next to her grandmother as she watched the play with a scowl on her face. I seem to have lost my puppy, called out one of the actors as he walked across the stage. Rika sighed and rolled her eyes at the stupidity of the play. Did a chimpanzee write this play? He saved my life, I must find him. The actor finished calling out. However, as the play began to run its course, the puppy, which was a man dressed in poorly made dog costume, came on set. Oh look, it's my puppy, he came back to me. Hooray. The actor yelled in fake happiness. I, the puppy, have returned, the puppy declared. The puppy ran towards his master and in doing so tripped on his overly large paws, thus causing him to meet with his new friend, the ground. The actor got up and ran towards the other and hugged. Arf, arf. The man acting as the puppy barked and then panted. The play ended and then 2 actors bowed. Rika clapped as she began to think. She came back, Rika thought to herself as the battle between Renamon and Ice Divimon flashed through her mind. Renamon came back for me. She risked her life to save mine even after everything I said to her. All she cared about was protecting me from that frozen freak. The memory was then replaced by the memory of the battle between Renamon and Harpamon. And I still didn't get it until Harpamon almost stomped her out of existence. The image of herself charging towards Harpamon, kunai in hand, then appeared in her mind. I don't think I've ever felt that strongly about anything in my life. I even surprised myself. It was amazing working together for the first time as a team. The image was soon replaced with the end of Kyubimon's battle with Miharaman, as she did digivolve back to Renamon when Miharaman attacked. I thought that she'd left me for good. But she didn't, she came back. How could I have ever thought that she was just data? with Henry. Henry sat down watching his little sister Susie playing with Terrierman, who she still thought was a doll. Okay, Princess Pewetty Pants, time to go to sleep, Susie said, and then tipped Terrierman over onto his side as Terrierman was covered with a pink, fluffy, frilly blanket ... with little red hearts on it. Oh, the humiliation, Terrierman thought. If the others saw me like this, I would die. Henry, help, he mentally pleaded. He turned to his tamer and gave the puppy dog eyes. However, Terrierman was no Kyubimon and was therefore not as cute looking. Henry shook his head, holding in the need to laugh at his Digimon's predicament. The sound of a lock being unlocked was heard and the two occupants, well, three if you count Susie, bad choice at humor right there. Anyways, the door opened to reveal Mr. Wong, Mrs. Wong, and the other siblings of Henry and Susie. Odu-san, Aka-chan. Susie yelled in excitement as she ran away from the humiliated Terrierman and hugged her parents. Hey there, Susie-chan, Mr. Wong said as he rested his briefcase on the ground. Okay honey, come on, we have to go and get dinner started, Mrs. Wong said. The other children bypassed their parents and went into their respective rooms. Just then Henry heard his D-arc go off. He took out the beeping green Digivice and looked at the compass. He quickly pocketed it before anyone noticed what he was looking at and quickly grabbed Terrierman. Odu-san, Aka-chan, I have something to do, some errands to run. I'll be back in time for dinner. He ran out the door with the bunny dog digital monster. With Naruto, Dorumon and Gargomon were walking through the streets as they were quite bored. They had already done their training which to them is defined by doing 500 push-ups and sit-ups, 5-hour sparring session including the use of Digimon attacks and jutsus, and finally a 10-lap run around the entire Shinjuku Park. And they were barely sweating. So, what should we do now? Naruto asked. I don't know, there's nothing to do in this town, Dorumon whined as he held paws with Gargomon. The feline Digimon nodded in agreement with her boyfriend. Hi, Doru-kun is right, Gargomon added. Yeah, I know. Every day while was a shinboy I went on missions on a daily basis. I was constantly on alert, adrenaline rushing through me throughout the entirety of my battles. But now this is just plain shit, the blonde Jinchuriki sighed. Then as the three were slumping their shoulders in boredom, Naruto's D-arcs began to go off. He took out Gargomon's bronze-colored one and the compass application activated, showing the holographic compass. The red arrow swirled and pointed in the direction which was straight in front of him. Looks like we got something to ease our boredom, Naruto said. He followed the compass and found himself in a crowd of people who were going into the subway. Gargomon and Dorumon quickly took their places on Naruto, Gargomon on his head and Dorumon riding on his back. He danced through the crowd, skillfully using his reflexes to avoid the members of the crowd as he wandered through it and then down the stairs that led into the subway. He stopped and saw the police officers guarding the ticket booths. He quickly used Shunshin and disappeared from view, which people miraculously did not notice due to the speed he was moving at. The blonde tamer and his Digimon duo moved at high speeds, rushing through the crowd before taking to the ceiling and then reappearing on the area where people waited for the train. Naruto let his Digimon slide off and watched the compass swirl on the holographic representation. Then it spun to his left. The three turned and sweat dropped as they saw the little cream puff that is and always will be Kyubimon. Oh, it's just Kyubimon, Dorumon inquired, but then he looked back as Naruto's compass pointed to the right. Naruto, the compass. Gargomon gestured to her physical bond with Naruto. Naruto looked at the bronze Digivice and saw the compass's crimson arrow pointing to the right. A large mist, a digital field sprung forth from the tunnel where the train would arrive from. Naruto glared as he saw a pair of crimson red eyes. Then he saw the amount of people that were around him. He quickly grabbed Kyubimon and took out a flash bomb. Oh my god, look over there, it's the paparazzi with Robert Downey Jr. from Iron Man. Naruto cried out as he sneakily threw the flash bomb. The little ball landed on the ground and released a bright white light. The crowd began to scream and panic, thinking the flash bomb, which released a shower of bright lights, were the cameras of the paparazzi, and immediately rushed to the exits as they thought the receding lights were the Chimeras leaving the subway. In order to add his cover, he formed a Kyubimon and had it henge into the likeliness of the famous movie star, and had Robert leave the subway followed by a stream of raging fans. Hopefully this won't make the public news, the blonde thought as the crowd, including the police officers, left the subway after the Kyubimon. After the people left, Naruto, Dorumon and Gargomon looked back at the tunnel, which was releasing a haze of digital particles. Robert Downey Jr., really? Gargomon asked. Oi, he was a brilliant actor in Iron Man and Iron Man 2, Naruto defended. He then paused as he heard a hiss. Naruto's hairs raised on the back of neck as he heard the sound he never wanted to hear again. Oh come on, he groaned, and then he saw the pair of glowing red eyes that were in digital field grow larger as a large white-scaled cobra, with the hood being patterned with violet scales and had a gold rim lining the hood, making it look like a turtle's shell. Naruto took out his D-Arc for Dorumon, and then Kyubimon's upside-down triangle began to glow. Digimodify, Digivolution activate, he yelled, swiping the card. Digivolution. Dorumon's old interface symbol glowed red before he was surrounded by swirls of reddish-violet data that then formed a swirling egg of reddish-violet data. Dorumon Digivolve 2. Dorumon's skin and fur peeled away to reveal a much large form, bound together by reddish-violet squares of data. The skin then reattached itself along with fur. The reddish-violet egg of data exploded to reveal Dorumon's champion form. A large dragon, only a little bit shorter than Growlmon, emerged. Black fur with purple zigzag patterns coated the Digimon. 2 large wings on the back were black with purple zigzag patterns, but on the underside they were pure white, just like the snout area. Hands, feet, wrists, and ankles along with the tip of the new Digimon's tail. A collar of white fur formed at the base of the dragon's neck, and the ears were more pointed than before. Sharp teeth lined its jaws, and 3 crimson claws on each of the dragon's forelimbs and back limbs seemed to shine. Orange eyes seemed to glow in their sockets. Finally, the red triangle, outlined in gray, the old interface lay in the center of its forehead. Dorugomon. Snakes. I hate snakes, Naruto growled, his eyes flashing red. What's wrong with snakes? Dorugomon asked, other than the fact that this one right here is gigantic and destructive. Let's not dwell on the past, but let's just say that snakes have not always been resourceful to me, he said as a certain Hebi-Sanin crossed his mind. Dorugomon quickly jumped onto the tracks, Gatomon jumping onto her fellow champion levels back. Gato-chan and I will chase after this Diva. Naruto nodded. I'll meet you guys in the other train stop, the blonde told his Digimon. Dorugomon nodded and then took off running down the tracks after the giant cobra. Naruto quickly channeled chakra into his feet and raced up the stairs to the surface and towards the other subway station. Naruto ran through the streets avoiding the 1 or 2 people that crossed his path, said people only seeing a flash of black and yellow as Naruto's hair, and the black and orange t-shirt he always wore crossed their vision. He jumped onto a stop sign and used it to propel himself in a powerful jump to send his soaring over the heads of some people as he flipped and continued to run before descending down the steps of the other subway station. Meanwhile, with Takato and Gilman, Snot Blaster attack. Gilman yelled as he fired 2 tiny balls of manufactured wood at Kenta. Kenta pretended to choke and fell to the ground. Ack, you got me, causing the other children to laugh. Takato was even joining in on the fun. Gilman wins. Jerry cried as she brought out her sock puppet, Bark. Gilman growled and barked back, causing the other kids to laugh at the dinosaur Digimon's antics. With Henry, great, the one time we actually need Takato and he goes missing, Henry said. Didn't he want to go patrolling this morning? Momentai, Takato will show up soon enough. Now come on, we have to catch a train ... or the Digimon that's on that train, Terrierman said, pointing to the subway entrance. Henry nodded and then went down the steps. Rika and Seiko were standing waiting for the train to arrive as the play had finished a while ago. What's taking this damn train so long? Rika mumbled. Seiko chuckled. Now Rika-chan. Good things come to those who wait, the elder Angewomon said. Rika sighed, but then heard a few cries of hey. And watch where you're going, Blondie. The red-haired girl turned and saw Naruto rushing down the steps, Kyubimon resting atop his head. He was holding Dorumon's reddish-violet D-Arc in his hand and quickly stopped at the edge of the train waiting area, his feet rapidly moving up and down as he ran in place. Whiskers, Rika asked herself, tilting her head to the side. Seiko looked at her granddaughter and saw her watching something with an odd look on her face. Seiko followed Rika's gaze and saw who she was looking at. Oh well, if it isn't that nice little boy. Naruto, yoo-hoo, she called out. Naruto gritted his teeth and turned to Seiko. His gaze softened and he waved back before looking back at his D-Arc. Rika walked up to the blonde and watched his D-Arc. Whatcha doin'? She asked. Hurry up. Dorugomon, Naruto grumbled, not taking Rika's words on. He then continued to watch the darkness of the train tunnel, and then noticed the 2 presences next to him. Oh hey Rika-chan, Seiko-san, he greeted as he continued to watch down the tunnel. So Naruto, how have you been? Rika's grandmother asked. Fine, he replied quickly. So, Naruto, have you asked out my granddaughter yet? Seiko teased. Naruto and Rika weren't really hearing or paying attention to Seiko's words, but responded. Hi, I asked her out this morning. She said yes, I'll be picking up this evening at 6, Naruto replied. Rika and Naruto then froze and then looked at each other and then back at Seiko, whose eyes were as wide as dinner plates. Really? Phew, so they thought. But then they heard a rumbling down the tunnel and Naruto looked at Rika. There's a diva here in the subway. Get the police to evacuate all people immediately, Naruto ordered with a serious look in his eyes. The rumbling grew louder and increased in magnitude. Earthquake, someone shouted, and the people, with the police officers, evacuated the premises. Seiko was pushed towards the exit by the flow of the moving crowd. Mateo, my granddaughter, she called out. Hurry up and get out, ma'am, it's dangerous, a blue-clad officer said and forced the elderly woman outside. Rika and Naruto watched as the large cobra Digimon raced past them, kicking up a powerful wind. Naruto then saw Dorugomon appear a few seconds later. What took you so long? Hey, that damn snake is really fucking fast, okay, Dorugomon said and then took off after the large cobra. Oi, Dorugomon, Mateo. I'm not a pack mule for anyone but Gato-chan. He yelled back. Gargomon shrugged and turned back to face the back of their serpentine foe. Naruto growled before jumping down on the tracks and channeling chakra into his feet and took off, leaving a trail of dust. Damn you retarded Digi team. The blonde cried out. Rika's sweat dropped as she saw Kyubimon hang on for his dear little life. Renamen, she said, becoming serious. The blonde fox appeared out of nowhere and jumped onto the railway tracks as Rika took out a card from her card case along with her blue D-Arc. Digimodify, Digivolution activate, she cried, swiping the card through the Digivice. Its abilities scanned and transferred to Renamen. Digimodify, Digivolution activate, she yelled. Kyubimon's upside-down triangle glowed on his forehead. Digivolution. Renamen digivolve to. Renamen's form changed to resemble a large golden and white-furred kitsune with the edges of the white fur that glowed with mystical blue flames on the paws. Instead of one tail, 8 more had sprouted out, now 9 blonde-colored tails, each tipped with white fur that seemed to also glow with mystical blue flames just like her paw fur. The bottom of Kyubimon's mouth was white and 2 purple slash marks were shown underneath her still glacial blue eyes, and a large white mane extended along the entire length of her neck. The yin-yang symbol was shown above each of her 4 legs and one lay on the center of her forehead. A white and red rope tied in a bow with 2 golden bells attached to it was wrapped around her neck. Kyubimon. Rika jumped onto her Kitsune Digimon's back and the Digimon took off with a burst of speed after the others. Kyubimon ran up to see a faltering Naruto who was becoming quite tired from running for a while. Kyuso, and you call yourself a partner, Naruto grumbled. He then saw yellow and white out of his peripheral vision and turned to see Rika riding atop Kyubimon. Oi, Whiskers. Need a lift? She asked, extending her hand. Naruto sighed before taking her hand and jumped onto Kyubimon's back. He snaked his arms around her waist and looked ahead as he watched his 2 partners race after the snake Diva. Rika smirked. What's wrong, Whiskers? Afraid you're gonna fall off? She asked with a chuckle. Naruto's eye twitched. No. He paused. I'm just making sure you don't fall off, he replied as he kept his arms in their position around her waist. Rika smirked. Gotcha, she thought before leaning back against his chest, which to her was surprisingly muscular. Naruto looked at the red-haired girl in surprise. WW, what the hell are you doing? He exclaimed. Well, aren't you going to make sure I don't fall off, she stated with a smirk and a playful look in her eyes. Naruto looked away and scowled as he heard Kyubimon laughing in his mind. Both Jinchuriki and Tamer thought one thing, not the same but similar. Kit, you just got played. Did she just play me? He thought, his left eye twitching extremely. With Henry and Terrierman. Henry was running along the path that made up the area where people waited for the subway trains. He then saw the digital field form as the giant cobra raced through the subway tunnels. Henry gasped as he saw a mother and her child about to be hit by the rampaging serpent's tail. Digimodify, speed activate, he yelled. Terrierman quickly appeared in front of the mother and child and held up his arms as Henry swiped another card. Digimodify, Wargremon's brave shield activate, he yelled. The large yellow shield with the orange symbol of courage emblazoned on the front appeared in the tiny Digimon's hands. The tail was slapped away by the chrome Digizoid defense and then vanished in a cloud of blue data flakes. The two then watched as the snake continued to slither through the tunnels. Then he saw Dorugomon with Gargomon riding atop the dragon Digimon, followed closely behind by Kyubimon, and atop her was Rika and Naruto. The two thought. Rika reached into her pocket and took out her cell phone. Henry quickly caught it and looked at the two. Call Gogglehead and tell him to get his stupid ass down here. Rika roared as she turned back to look at the snake Diva Digimon. Were they just? Terrierman asked. I think so, Henry replied and then dialed Takato's house. Mrs. Matsuki was just looking through a fashion magazine when her phone started to ring. Oh heyo, this is Matsuki Bakery, how are you? Ah yes, is Takato there? Who are you? It's Henry. Oh hi Henry, Takato's not here. He's at the park with his friends. Okay arigato Yani, he said and hung up. Yani and hung the phone back on the receiver. Kids, always in such a rush these days, she said, shaking her head before diving back into the fashion magazine. Ooh, a sale on jeans. 0.50% off original prices. Back in the subway, Terrierman had digivolved into Gargomon and was currently racing behind Kyubimon, and the others. Power metal. Dorugomon cried and fired several metal spheres charged with red, blue, and violet sparks of electricity. Foxtail Inferno. Kyubimon howled as the ghostly balls of flame surrounded the spiraling metal spheres, creating a large orb of steel, lightning, and flame. The attack crashed into the Digimon and made a large explosion. But when the smoke that had resulted from said explosion cleared, there wasn't a scratch on it. Rika growled as she took out her D-Arc and tried to scan the Digimon, but no information came up. "Fuso, is there no information on these devas?" Rika said, glaring at her blue piece of machinery. "Not really, just their names and attacks," Naruto replied. It was a rhetorical question. "I know," Naruto replied with his foxy grin. Rika glared at the blonde before she saw Gargomon running along the walkway with Henry on his head. "Oi, what's up my diggy peeps?" Gargomon said, trying to sound like gangster. "Please ... don't do that," Gargomon," Henry said with a sweat drop. Gargomon chuckled nervously and scratched his head with his cannons, nearly knocking Henry off. The three continued to run. "Did you get Gogglehead?" Rika asked. "No, his Aka-chan told me he was at the park." "Figures, the one time he wanted to be serious and he blows it by going to play with the other kid," as Rika sighed as she face-palmed. "I'm sure he'll some soon enough, but right now we have to stop that thing," Naruto said, and then swiped Rika's D-Arc from her and then tried scanning it one more time. This time information came up. "Sugoi, we got a name," Naruto cried out. "Well, what Digimon is it? And did you have to take my D-Arc?" she asked. Naruto looked at the holographic image of the large cobra. "Sandram, ultimate level Digimon. Oh look, now it has the name of his sovereign Jukwayamon as his main leader and follows the Phoenix of the South only. His attacks are Venomax and Baokui." Naruto read and handed back Rika her D-Arc. "And yes, I had to take yours because it was right there. I guess it takes a few minutes or more to scan these Digimon because since they are ultimate they require more data to be scanned," Henry said. "That is a possibility. I mean, we've been chasing Sandram for at least 5, Naruto said. Naruto then stood up and let go of Rika, much to her dismay. He then jumped and landed on Dorugomon. "Miss me," he told his Digimon. "I was wondering when you would get the common sense to do that," Dorugomon said. Sandram then reached a fork in the tracks and turned around hissing at his opponents. "Fools, to think you can take on a diva such as myself," Sandram said. "Dear Kami-sama, Sandram sounds like Orochimaru team." Venomax. A large purple axe flew from the serpent's mouth, but the three Digimon dodged and the axe impacted with only dust and metal. Bunny Pummel. Henry had jumped off of his partner's head as Gargomon's Gatling guns glowed emerald green before impacting with Sandramon's face, but the snake simply wrapped his tail around the bunny and slammed him into the ground before throwing him into the wall. Kyubimon then rested Rika on the side with Henry before jumping and spinning in the air. Dragon Wheel. Venomax. The blue dragon and violet axe collided in a small explosion. Sandram used the smoke as a cover and leapt out, fangs poised to strike. But Dorugomon twisted and his muscular tail slammed into Sandramon's face, sending the serpent back. Naruto and Gargomon jumped down and landed on the ground. Rasengan. Nico Kick. Tamer and partner let loose their attacks and struck true to their mark, hitting Sandram in the chin. However, the Diva refused to be bested and wrapped his tail around the two and threw them away before opening his jaws. Venomax. And the large purple weapon flew at the two enemies of the Diva as it was near impossible to dodge in midair. Naruto and Gargomon were struck in the air and everyone gasped as they saw the attack cleave flesh from bone, but were even more surprised as the two bodies changed into two cleanly cut blocks of stone. They all turned as they heard the sound of coughing. Naruto was panting as he held Gargomon, standing next to the wall where he took the rocks that were knocked out from there by Sandramon's tail. "That was close," he said. "No kidding," the feline Digimon added and then stood to her feet. "Naruto, Gargomon, you're okay." "Hi, now come on, we got ourselves a snake to catch." The other Tamers and their Digimon attacked full force. Kyubimon jumped and slammed her tails against the head of the Diva, sending it reeling back before Gargomon ran up and performed a backflip to initiate a double kick to the chin before landing on the ground and then performing an uppercut using his bunny pummel. Sandram hissed as he was struck in the nose from a Nico kick from Gargomon. Then Dorugomon and Naruto nodded before Naruto slashes a card. Digimodify. Geogrimon's Mega Flame. He cried and a ball of red flame formed in Dorugomon's clawed hands. Naruto then formed hand signs and took a deep breath. Katen, Karyuendon no Jutsu. He cried and the large dragon of orange fire was blasted out of Naruto's mouth. Mega Flame. Dorugomon yelled and threw the large red fireball as it merged with the fire dragon. Collaboration Jutsu. Seikayo no Karyuendon no Jutsu and the Omega Fire Dragon roared before slamming into Sandram and kicking up a large amount of dust as a large explosion rocked the entire underground complex. With Takato. "Oh dear Kami-sama, you humans sicken me," Maman said. The group of children and Gilman turned to see the pint-sized Digimon standing in a tree watching them. Takato, do you know this guy? Nice Halloween costume, Kenta said. Yeah, sadly. That's Impmon. Just ignore him though, Takato advised. Impmon growled before a small fireball flickered to life on the tip of his finger and he threw it at the glasses-wearing boy, burning his sleeve. Og, you could have burnt me, dude, Kenta yelled. That was the point, you human baka, Impmon retorted. Then he looked at Takato and Gilman. Especially you. You take your leisurely time playing tag and snot balls with these even more idiotic humans while your friends are busy fighting a Digimon downstairs, Impmon said. You have no shame, do you? Takato and Gilman's eyes widened. Nani, they exclaimed. The scarf-wearing digital monster nodded. Your buddies are fighting a diva and you're busy playing silly games. What are you going to do, human? Impmon asked with a smirk. Takato quickly told everybody to stand back as Gilman began to sniff the air. He's right, there is a Digimon somewhere, it's below us, Gilman said, his pupils dilating. That means they are in the subway, Takato said. Suddenly a large force shook the ground. That must be the others, Takato said as he drew a card. Digimodify, Digmon's drills activate, Takato said, swiping the card through the red D-Arc scanner. Gilamon's hands quickly became 2 drills and began to tunnel beneath the earth towards the subway complex below. Oh, cool, a tamer battle. I don't know about you guys, but I gotta see this, Kazu said. Takato, let us see too, Jerry said. Takato turned back and glared at his friends. No, absolutely not. You guys could get hurt, so stay back and let us handle this, the goggle-wearing tamer said. When Gilman finished drilling, he latched on with his claws and climbed back up. Takatomon, we're ready, I've reached the others, they are directly below us. Mateo, Takato, here, take this power modify card, Kazu said. Takato nodded as he took the card. He and Gilman then descended down into the tunnel to the subway. You better bring back my card, Chumley, Kazu cried out. In the subway, the explosion's smoke began to disperse and the others were in shock as they saw Sandraman's body was nowhere to be found. Did we destroy him? Henry asked. Naruto and the other Digimon sniffed the air. No, he's still here. Then Naruto noticed the kicked up dirt where Sandram was. So he thought, and then the ground began to rumble beneath them. He's underneath us. And Naruto's declaration proved correct as the large cobra jumped out of the ground from a tunnel he had made and aimed to bite Dorugomon. Dorugomon quickly grabbed Sandram by his neck, stopping him from advancing. Venom. Oh, like hell you will. Power metal. The electrically charged metal spheres blasted into Sandraman's open jaws and electrocuted the inside of his mouth. But since snakes were made to digest anything, well, almost anything, Sandram survived the electrocution as he swallowed the things whole, and his stomach acids digested them. Sandram bent out of the way as the large black dragon aimed to slice off his head before snaking his way around Dorugomon's arm and then biting down on the crook of Dorugomon's neck. He then leapt off, but left the tail area on Dorugomon before wrapping it around his neck and bringing the large dragon down onto the ground. Venom axe, Sandram yelled, but the large purple axe was deflected as a small red body slammed on the head of Sandram with enough force to aim the axe downwards and have it crash into the ground. Gilman and Takato jumped off the ultimate level Digimon, and in front of the others. About time you reached here, Naruto scolded. Takato smiled sheepishly. Gomen Mina, he replied, but then quickly took out his card and swiped it. Digimodify, Digivolution activate. Haluman's 0 unit glowed as Takato's card was scanned through his red D-Arc. Digivolution. Gilman was surrounded by a swirling red egg of data. Gilman digivolved too. Gilman's skin then peeled away to reveal a darker red form that was patterned in a wireframe pattern. The skin then reattached itself to form a larger, more powerful form of Gilman. The egg of data exploded to reveal a larger version of Gilman, except the ears were now like spikes and 2 blade-like protrusion came from his elbows, and Gilman seemed to look a lot more reptilian looking with a mane of silver-white hair growing from the back of his head. Black band-like patterns with digicode on them were shown on his legs, forearms and around the thick part of his tail. The 0 unit was emblazoned on his feet and hands while the digital hazard symbol was located on his left shoulder. Growlmon, the 5 champion level Digimon, stared down the single ultimate level Digimon. Dorugomon couldn't move due to the paralyzing poison coursing through his system. Kyuso, he thought as he struggled to rise, but his efforts were in vain as he fell back down. Gatomon looked at her Digivolve boyfriend and frowned. Don't worry, Doru-kun, we'll win this, you fought hard. Rest now, she advised. Dorugomon nodded, but reluctantly thought. Hi, Gato-chan, he said with a frown and frustration in his burnt orange eyes. The 4 standing champions attacked. Kyubimon released a dragon of sapphire flames at Sandram. Dragon wheel, she cried out as the fire dragon roared, but the snake coiled its body and released itself like a spring, moving quickly underneath the flames and then going upwards, slamming headfirst into Kyubimon's body before biting down on her, and then throwing her into a wall. A venom axe crashed into Kyubimon as she struggled to get up. Luckily, a weak counter-attack from a barely formed foxtail inferno managed to reduce the damage to a minimum. Kyubimon quickly got up and leaped at her opponent, but Gargomon had chosen that time to act also. Sandram smirked. "I've always wanted to do this," he thought, and then ducked, causing the two to crash their faces into each other. Gargomon and Kyubimon groaned before Sandram slammed his tail downwards, sending both to the ground. Growlmon jumped and attacked with glowing blue energy blades. Dragon slash. Sandram smirked as he looked out from the corner of his eye. Growlmon was about to hit him, but a clang was heard as the dragon slash impacted with something else. Valkyrie, Sandram declared as the battle axe that had materialized out of light appeared, clutched in its tails. Sandram twirled the axe expertly before slamming against Growlmon and then nearly took off the red-scaled dinosaur's head if he hadn't ducked in time. Kyubimon quickly leaped and bit down on Sandramon's neck, causing the Cobra Diva to hiss in pain. He wriggled, but couldn't get free, so he tried to next best thing. He threw his Valkyrie upwards before slamming his entire body weight down and damaged Kyubimon as she took the brunt of the impact. Kyubimon let go due to the pain as Sandram grabbed his axe and then slammed it into the ground. A trail of light formed and struck the fox Digimon before Sandram ducked beneath a bunny pummel from Gargomon. Gargo laser. The green and tan-colored bunny yelled. A barrage of green laser bullets flew at Sandram, but he used the Valkyrie and spun it rapidly, deflecting the massive projectiles before swiping with his axe. Time seemed to slow as Gargomon ducked, and a few hairs were sliced off his ears as he ducked beneath the attack. Gargomon was then hit with the flat side of the axe, causing him to form an imprint in the wall. Pyroblaster. Growlmon roared as he fired a large ball of fire at Sandram. The follower of Angewomon ducked and smirked. "How Miharaman lost to you whelps is beyond me," Sandram hissed as he used the Valkyrie to slice through another fireball. Gargomon watched as her friends continued to fight even as they fell. She knew her attacks would not be useful due to her small stature. Hell, even Gargomon was bigger than her. Gargomon clutched the earth with her claws. Why am I so useless?" she thought. Naruto gritted his teeth as he saw the other fight. "Gargomon, we cannot give up," he shouted. Gargomon looked at her tamer as he held her D-arc in his hands, clutched tightly. "Gargomon, your friends are being beaten, we must not give up. Remember what I told you," Naruto said. Gargomon looked at her tamer. "True strength." Naruto paused. Gargomon's eyes widened. "True strength comes from protecting what is precious to oneself," the feline and Jinchuriki said simultaneously. Naruto nodded and then looked at Dorumon. "Dorumon," he said. The paralyzed dragon managed to move his head as the poison began to wear off. "Hi, watch your girlfriend kick some ass," the whiskered blonde said, and then he reached into his card case and took a shining blue card with the image of Yellow D and a pixelated dinosaur coming out of the space on the Decalumon's 0 unit glowed even more brightly, and the fighting paused as the Digimon all felt a large energy surge coming from Gargomon. "Gargomon," Naruto smirked as he slashed the blue card. "Digimodify, Matrix Digivolution activate," he cried. Matrix Digivolution. Gargomon Matrix Digivolve 2. Gargomon glowed a bronze-gold color as her body lengthened and became more humanoid. Her tail retracted into her body and 8 angelic wings grew on her back. Her ears became a small pair of angelic wings that were connected to a steel helmet that covered her eyes and nose. Long, flowing blonde hair cascaded down her back from her head like a waterfall of gold. A white outfit covered her previously naked body, leaving only a bit of her stomach and her upper thighs visible. 2 wing-shaped cups covered her breasts in a makeshift bra of some sort, and a long pink ribbon with digicode printed along it was wrapped around her arms. A pair of gloves that stretched to her forearms appeared, and finally a pair of boots. The one on her left looked like a regular high-heel boot that was apparently a part of the leotard-like bodysuit she was wearing, while the one on her right was relatively normal if you didn't count the fact it was completely covered with pure white feathers. Her ring from her tail became wrapped around her left ankle. Her 8 angelic wings flapped majestically. "Angewomon, Sugoi everyone," except Sandram whispered in awe as Angewomon was surrounded by a holy white light. "Naruto, Doru-kun, look, I did it. I digivolved," Angewomon said in an excited tone. "Too bad you'll never enjoy that feeling ever again, Venom Axe." Angewomon turned to see a rapid flurry of violet axes soar towards her. Angewomon flapped her wings and dodged to avoid the attack, although they nearly hit her since she got an increase in height, and there wasn't much room to fly in a cramped-up tunnel. Angewomon then formed a staff out of light particles and blocked the VOICEOVER that Sandram aimed at her. Sandram aimed to cleave her in half, but Angewomon held up the golden staff of light and spun it, deflecting the attack and sending it off course. Her staff vanished as she watched the axe swing towards her. "Heaven's charm," she cried, and a cross made of light appeared and blocked the attack. "VOICEOVER," he yelled as he swung the axe again. Sandram repeatedly tried this method of attack, but proved unsuccessful as the Heaven's charge always blocked it. He then stopped and the Heaven's charge vanished. Sandram then used the opening to attack, but Angewomon dodged by twisting her body and then swooped down onto the ground in front of the much taller Cobra and kicked upwards, using extreme flexibility to slam a perfect upwards kick to Sandram's chin. She then jumped and, unlike any angel Digimon, used her hands and feet to attack. "Naruto taught me a few things. You team," Angewomon said, and then jumped up and punched Sandram in the face before twisting, and the back of her hand swung into the side of Sandram's face before she floated to rearrange her position and performed an axe kick, sending the Diva to the ground. She then formed a halo-like shape around her head. "Heaven's charm," she yelled as the inside of the halo began to glow. Sandram was suddenly struck by a green bolt, paralyzing him. "Everyone, shoot your attack into the halo," Angewomon yelled. Everyone nodded. Dorugomon managed to stand as the poison had worn off nearly completely. Gargo Laser, Foxtail Inferno, Pyro Blaster, Tower Metal. Naruto formed hand signs and then formed a tornado that swirled all the attacks into it. "FUNN, Furyuendan no Jutsu," he yelled, and the Wind Dragon, mixed with all the attacks, flew into the halo that was Heaven's charm. The two wings on Angewomon's right arm then stretched out and became vertical to form a bow, and then the halo swirled before shrinking into a small sphere. The sphere then lengthened to form an arrow of glowing white light. "Celestial Arrow," she yelled. Angewomon readied the arrow and the projectile sailed through the air as it was let loose. Flying straight and true, the attack pierced through Sandram's chest area. I don't really know a snake's anatomy, but he would die from the attack. Sandram hissed loudly as he switched to screaming in pain before falling at the feet of Angewomon. "Hehe, you are strong. No wonder they call you the goddess of the digital world," Sandram said, chuckling before he began to disappear as red data flakes. "There are more of us. The 12 Devis may be reduced to 10, but with each arrival, the stronger they are. You will fall, Tamers. The sovereign one will become victorious." "Which sovereign?" Naruto asked. Sandram chuckled. "You know, the old bird was quite fixated on seeing you and your partners fall, especially young Naruto. However, I guess the sovereign one of fire cannot be granted everything. Even the death of another." Sandram hissed before disappearing as red data flakes. Naruto's eyes flashed red. "Jukwayamon. This is all you're doing?" Naruto growled. He then sighed to calm himself before turning to Angewomon. "You did well, Angewomon. Pardon me for saying this, but damn, for a Digimon you are sexy," the blonde said. Angewomon shrugged before twirling in the air before settling down. "I can't help it. I'm just naturally so," the angel Digimon said before she was bathed in a golden light and became Gargomon again. "So how do we get out?" Henry asked. "We could take the elevator," Takato said, pointing up. The others looked and saw the extremely large tunnel Gilman had dug. Naruto and Rika rolled their eyes. Takato will be Takato, they thought before climbing out. At the surface, Sugoi real Digimon. Kazu yelled after Takato handed him back his card. He never used it after all. Kyubimon and Gargomon. One girl yelled out. "Hey look, it's Gargomon," one girl said. "She's so pretty. Who does your fur, Gargomon?" "And naturally like this," the feline replied. "Cool, look, that dragon Digimon. I've never seen or heard of this Digimon," Kenta said. "Well, Kenta, this is obviously a who is this?" Kazu asked, causing everyone to fall down anime style. Okay, since the entirety of you guys know about the existence of Digimon, this will probably be able to not be avoided." Naruto sighed. "Okay, this is Dorugomon. The DORU part of his name, after much research, I have realized means digital or unknown Digimon. Since his rookie form's name is Dorumon," Naruto explained. "He contains what is known as the old interface, an old amount of data that was a prototype program of the Digimon program." "Cool," the kids exclaimed. "An ancient Digimon. Well, we gotta go," Naruto said, and then jumped onto Dorugomon's head along with Gargomon. He then paused before turning to Rika. "Boy, Rika-chan," he asked. The redhead turned to the blonde. "Hi, we're still on for 6, right?" he asked. Rika blushed lightly as the attention was shifted from the Digimon to her. "Well, hi," she replied. Naruto nodded and then tapped Dorugomon's head, and the dragon Digimon flew off to the apartment where they lived. Rika then turned to see the others staring at her. "What?" she asked. "What's going on between you and Naruto?" Henry asked. He asked me out and I agreed, so what? Everyone's eyes widened at that, even Kyubimon's. Nani, Rika's house. After the little incident with the girls asking her how lucky she was to have a tamer as a boyfriend and what she was going to wear, and all that crap while the boys they just asked even more crap. When Rika got home it was nearly 6 o'clock, and her grandmother had told her mother and Makino was so proud and happy. Makino then decided that since this was Rika's first date, and that she wouldn't want to look, in Makino's words, too beautiful, she bought clothes that would fit Rika's style yet was still girly enough in Makino's eyes. Rika was dressed in a solid colored dark blue blouse with her signature broken heart in violet on the front, which was tucked into a black skirt that reached a bit past her knees. The hem was lined with small light blue flames that when blown in the wind looked like that were actually burning. She wore a pair of black heels that her mother forced on her, the heel being only 1 inch tall though. She wore a violet bracelet on her right wrist, and for the finishing touch both Makino and Seiko had Rika wear her hair down, the ponytail gone, and in its place was a downward flowing sea of red mixed with orange, a river of fire if you would accept it was hair. Though makeup was worn, Rika managed to stop them from doing that at least. You look absolutely stunning, Rika-chan, Seiko said. Truthfully, I think you should wear makeup, but this is your date, honey. Anyways, you look beautiful. You get your good looks from me, Makino said. Her vanity was always at the surface. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. Makino walked towards the door and winked at Rika, who blushed. The door of the old-style Japanese house slid open to reveal one hell of a sexy teenager. Rika's eyes nearly bugged out of her head as she looked at the blonde boy. He kept his hair in its wild and untamed state, seeing as how it would never go down. The sapphire blue of his eyes was brought out by the black shirt he was wearing. His shirt had the Konoha insignia on the right chest pocket etched in gold, while he wore a pair of dark blue jeans and a pair of black and blue New Balance brand sneakers that would be considered passable for the outfit. He wore his G-Shock watch on his right wrist. The blonde yawned, exposing his sharp canines to the world as he scratched the whisker marks on his cheeks. Holy mother of... Naruto froze as he stared at what he could only describe as a goddess before him. Naruto coughed and blushed a bit in embarrassment. I mean, you look very nice, Rika-chan. I could say the same for you, Naruto, Rika said. Naruto looked up as she had called him by name, not by the proclaimed nickname he had been given. Your Aka-chan and Oba-chan are standing behind this part of the door, aren't they? He asked as he poked the unopened part of the sliding door. Rika blushed and nodded. Naruto chuckled and held out his arm. May we take our leave, Ms. Nonaka? He asked with tip of his imaginary hat. Rika giggled and took his arm. Lead the way, Mr. Namikaze, she told him. Naruto nodded, and then the two walked out as Makino and Seiko watched the two walk out of the main gate of the house. It's about damn time that Rika got a date. I was beginning to think she didn't like guys ... at all, Makino said. Seiko sweat dropped and sighed. You just had to ruin the moment, didn't you, Makino, she thought. The red-haired preteen and the blonde teen walked through the busy night streets as the crisp, cool Sunday evening air. Some guys gave wolf whistles to Rika while the girls got hearts in their eyes as they saw Naruto walk past them. Rika glared at both the guys and the girls as she held onto Naruto's arm. She looked at the blonde and noticed he wasn't really taking the sluts as she would define them as on and not even sparing them a glance. Not to worry, Rika-chan. I don't like girls who act like that, he said, reassuring her. Rika blushed lightly and nodded. So where are we going? Well, I arranged for reservations for 2 at the Silver Dragon, he said. Rika's eyes widened. But that ... that's like the place where rich people eat. And you deserve to be treated like a queen, my dear, Naruto said with a wink. The two continued to walk before they reached the restaurant. The restaurant was crowded with people wearing fancy suits, expensive dresses, and all of them had that air about them that said, I'm rich. I have more money, so therefore I can afford to spit on the ground you walk on because you're a peasant in my eyes. Naruto walked up to the front desk and knocked it a few times. A man suddenly appeared from behind it. Hi, welcome to the Silver Dragon, home of the great Silver Dragon noodle soup. Do you have a reservation? The man asked. Naruto nodded. Hi, I made a reservation under the name Namikaze, Naruto said. The clerk checked the rather larger registration book and nodded. Ah yes, here it is. Your table is right this way, and the clerk led Naruto and Rika to a table by a window. The older men and women glanced at them, probably wondering how 2 children got into this place, the 2 tamers thought. The 2 seated, Naruto being the gentleman he was, aided in pulling out Rika's chair for her to sit in. Naruto then took his seat and one of the waiters immediately came to them. Oh heyo, oh what a cute couple you two make ... let me guess, first date. The 2 blushed, but nodded, earning a chuckle from the waiter. Hi, well we have our long time special, the Silver Dragon noodle soup, which I highly recommend you order, the waiter said. Naruto and Rika looked at each other. The red-haired girl shrugged as if saying, go for it. Okay then, we'll have 2 orders of the noodle soup and, Rika-chan, what do you want to drink? The blonde asked. I'll have a Coke. Same here, Naruto told the waiter, who nodded and then bent down to Naruto's ear. You're a very lucky man to be dating a girl such as herself. Treat her right and you'll go far. I know I am, and I don't plan to mess this up, Naruto whispered back. The waiter nodded and patted Naruto on the shoulder before leaving to get their order. The two made small talk, discussing what they do outside of battling other Digimon and certain strategies to use during battles. Their food arrived and Naruto's eyes turned into hearts. Itachi tastes like the ramen. Ikaraku Jiji makes Naruto smirked, but then frowned, a sad look overtaking the joy in his eyes as he remembered I am and Tuchai. Those two were the first to see as who I was instead of what I was burdened with by Aru-san. Rika looked up from her meal and noticed Naruto's chopsticks slowly sinking into his soup. Naruto ... Are you okay? You've been rather quiet, the red-haired said, concern evident in her tone. Naruto smiled sadly. Hi, I'm fine, just remembering, he stated and continued to eat. All conversation had left them at that point and they continued to eat. After eating, Naruto and Rika left. Rika was going to take out some money to pay for her half, but Naruto rested his hand on hers. Please, allow me, Rika-chan. I asked you out. It's my responsibility to pay for it, he said with a smile. Rika blushed again. Why am I blushing so much? I normally never do around other guys ... But Naruto is special, she thought. Naruto paid the clerk up front with his credit card, but the moment was ruined as one guy stood up. Now I know you. You're Rika Nonaka, daughter of the famous supermodel Makino Nonaka, the guy said. Naruto and Rika's eyes widened as a commotion suddenly began to develop, and then all of a suddenly paparazzi that were staked out around the restaurant to get the latest gossip on the lives of the rich suddenly turned their undivided attention onto the young couple. Team Naruto growled, his eyes flashing red. He quickly grabbed Rika, holding her bridal style, and took off in a run. The cameras flashing as the cameramen chased them, white flashes following their every move. Naruto then ducked into an alley and continued to run until he met a dead end. Naruto cursed and his channeled chakra into his feet and placed one foot on the wall, and then another before running up the solid vertically positioned wall just as the press managed to squeeze their way into the slightly tightly spaced alley to come to the dead end with no sign of Naruto or Rika. Huso, that would have made a great scoop, one camera guy said. One camera guy looked at his images and all he got was a blurry black blob. All I got is a blob. What did you guys get? Judging from the groans and sighs of disappointment, he was guessing that the others received similar pictures of a black and yellow blob. When the paparazzi left, Naruto chuckled as he watched from below. Rika's arms were still wrapped around his neck as Naruto still held her bridal style. Oh, those damn paparazzi. Always following me, Rika grumbled. I'm guessing this has happened before. I was practically born in front of the camera, Rika said. However, her words stuck in her throat as she and Naruto spotted a flash. They turned to see a cameraman standing there looking at the image of the blonde and the redhead looking down at him, Rika in his arms. I just wanted a normal date, she groaned. Naruto growled and then he rested Rika on the ground and vanished in a blur of speed. Rika suddenly found her date on the ground level with the reporter, took his camera and punched him in the face. The cameraman was so busy looking at his picture he didn't notice the blonde teenager next to him. She smirked with glee as she saw Naruto kick the man in his balls before whispering something in his ear, probably like severing his manhood because the man clutched his balls with even more vigor from when he was hit there. Naruto then held the camera and slammed in on the ground and crushed it beneath his shoes. He then kicked the man in the face, knocking him out as the blonde used Shunshin and reappeared next to Rika. Well, he ought to be out for a while, the Jinchuriki said proudly. Naruto then picked her up again and looked at her face, which he saw was sporting a blush. You look like a goddess, you know that, Rika-chan? He asked with a smirk. Flattery will get you places, Naruto, Rika said as her blush seemed to intensify. Well, come on then, Rika-chan. I have something I want to show you, Naruto said and then leaped from rooftop to rooftop towards Shinjuku Park. Shinjuku Park. Rika moved her hair out of her face when Naruto touched down on the ground after wall jumping to the ground. He rested the red-haired beauty on her feet before wiping off the wrinkles on his shirt and jeans. The two walked into the park and Rika followed behind the blonde as they entered an open area of the park, the stars shining down them, and the moon acting as a spotlight. As Naruto turned around to face Rika, his eyes widened as he marveled at her beauty, the moonlight bringing out the gray shade in her violet eyes. Beautiful was all he said and caused Rika to blush heavily. Arigato, Naruto, she said. Naruto smirked and then told her to wait and he formed a few kagebushin. He then took out a small scroll from his pocket and unrolled it. You had a scroll in your pocket the entire time. She asked. Well yeah, can't play music without instruments, can you? He replied. What do you? Her voice stuck in her throat as a bass and electric guitar, a keyboard and a drum set appeared out of the scroll. The three Cagemen took their places at the drums, bass and keyboard while Naruto himself took the electric. Well, I wanted to give you something at the end of the date, but I couldn't think of what to give, so I decided on this song I found on the internet, he said. Rika's eyes widened. Thea learned a song and is going to sing it. For me. Rika stood as she watched Naruto begin to play. If you only knew Shinedown. If you only knew. I'm hanging by a thread. The web I spin for you. If you only knew. I'd sacrifice my beating heart before I'd lose you. I still hold on to the letters. You returned. I swear I've lived and learned. It's 4:03 and I can't sleep. Without you next to me I toss and turn like the sea. If I drown tonight, bring me back to life. Breathe your breath in me. The only thing that I still believe in is you. If you only knew. If you only knew how many times I counted all the words that went wrong. If you only knew how I refuse to let you go. Even when you're gone, I don't regret any days I spent, nights we shared, or letters that I sent. If you only knew, I still hold on to the letters. You returned. You helped me live and learn. It's 4:03 and I can't sleep. Without you next to me I toss and turn like the sea. If I drown tonight, bring me back to life. Breathe your breath in me. The only thing that I still believe in is you. Believe in is you. I still believe in you. Oh, if you only knew. The literal one-man band stopped playing and Naruto sealed away the instruments and his clones were dispelled. He pocketed the scroll before walking up to Rika and showed his famous foxy grin. So, what did you think? His answer was a hug that tackled him to the ground. He landed on the ground with an oof and looked up to see Rika's eyes meeting his own. I loved it. Arigato Naruto-kun. She then bent down and her eyelids began to droop. Naruto leaned up and after a few seconds their lips finally met in a kiss. Neither having experience in the matter, thus it wasn't excellent, but nor was it bad. The two remained in that position for a while before they pulled apart. My shinobi senses tell me that you like the song, he said with a chuckle. Rika got off of him as he climbed to his feet. Well then you are an excellent shinobi if you could deduce that, Rika said. Naruto then grabbed Rika bridal style and channeled chakra into his feet and took off for her house. Where are we going? She yelled over the rushing winds that blew through her hair and past her ears. Your house obviously. It's nearly 10 o'clock. I promised your mother I'd have you home by then before we left, he said. When did she tell you that? I heard her through the door. You must have been thinking something. The blonde shinobi carried his red-haired goddess to her door and rested her down. Well, thanks for the date, Rika said as she fixed her hair. My pleasure, Rika-chan. Well then I'll see you around, Kobanwa, Naruto said. But before he could even move, Rika flung himself at him and her lips captured his own. Again, the two kissed by the light of the moon before she pulled away. She smirked. Even better than the first time, she said. A slight blush and a giggle were formed from her person as she saw Naruto's face light up red like a tomato. Glad you liked it, he said before walking away. His dazed state had him walking like a drunken man through the gate. His foxy grin plastered on his face as he spun around and gave Rika a wink, causing her to blush this time. Rika then turned around and walked through the door and saw her mother and grandmother waiting there. So how was it? They asked. Rika smirked. It was perfect, she said with a smile and then shed her shoes before retiring to her room. Makino and Seiko looked surprised, watching the young girl walk away before smirking. I want all the details, Makino yelled after he daughter. Rika groaned and rolled her eyes. Ruining the moment again, Makino. Seiko thought. Naruto's apartment. Naruto put the key into the lock and opened it to see DORUMON and Gargomon in a serious makeout session. But due to enhanced senses and quick reflexes, the two pulled away quite quickly. Don't worry, you two. Just as long as I'm not here, the blonde said with a chuckle as he walked in. Shutting the door, he found his Digimon partners watching him with sly grins on their faces. Sue, how did it go? DORUMON asked. It was quite good actually. Other than the part where I had to knock a paparazzi man unconscious because he got a picture of us. It was ... Well, it was good, Naruto said. Good? Gargomon asked. You go on a date with a girl as pretty as Rika and you can only say it was good. What would you say it would be on a scale of 1 to 10? DORUMON asked. Gargomon looked between her boyfriend and Tamer before focusing on her Tamer as he thought for a while. The foxy grin plastered itself upon his face. 20, and then he turned and left to go to bed. The two Digimon looked at each other and smirked. Well, it's about damn time they got together, Gargomon said. Good things come to those who wait, Gato-chan, DORUMON said and then pecked her on the lips. The two then got up and went to bed. However, unknown to the two Tamers and their Digimon was that during the date, a small little camera was shown be acting as a fly on the wall. The camera's wireless link led to the large screen of a computer in the Hypnos Towers. Yamaki sat before the screen and replayed the date between Rika and Naruto, as well showing other scenes involving the entire group of Tamers. He froze the frame when he saw Naruto kissing Rika in front of her house and smirked. Interesting. Naruto, you are one wild card, my boy, Yamaki thought as he stared at the image. Takato and his friends were chatting with each other, talking about Digimon and other unimportant things. Ms. Nami Asagi, the teacher of Takato and his friends, had just walked into class with that uncaring look on her face that said, "Why am I here? You children are all going to be failures in life." She closed the sliding door and turned to the class, slamming her one of 5 heavy textbooks on the desk. The ear-shattering thump that echoed throughout the class was more than enough to silence any and all conversations in the class. Ms. Asagi nodded before secretly taking out a relaxant drug that she always kept on hand. "Now that you all have settled down, I have an announcement to make." She was interrupted as Kazu shot up and spoke. "School has been closed for the rest of my life," he asked hopefully, a large grin plastered on his face. The young teacher sighed. Dealing with children like Kazu is Suo worth more than minimum wage, she thought before speaking. Kazu ... and no matter how many times you ask that question, I will answer it with the same thing. School will not and never be closed unless there will be some sort of apocalyptic crisis, Ms. Usagi said. All was shucks, Kazu whined as he slumped back into his chair. Now then, as I was saying, the announcement is that the principal has allowed my class and I, along with Mr. Toshiaki Mori's class and his class, to go on a camping field trip for the next 2 days. Starting tomorrow. I have the papers that tell you what you will need to bring for the 2 days, and also your parents will have to sign the permission slip attached to the sheet at the bottom of the itinerary, Ms. Asagi said. The class immediately became excited, but just as quickly became silent as Ms. Usagi slammed her giant textbooks on the desk again. Ms. Asagi, "Hi, Takato. I was just wondering, what we'll be doing on the trip?" Takato asked. After training with Naruto, it had become almost second nature to the goggle-wearing tamer to know just what he was dealing with. After all, in battle you must study the opponent and know what she is and how they fight. Apparently camping trips applied to this particular application of study in Takato's mind. "Takato, the activities are located on your itinerary sheets. Any more questions?" she asked. The class was silent as they cast glances around the room, which caused Ms. Asagi to smile. "Good, now then, if you turn to page 67 of your history books." She was interrupted as the door of her classroom was knocked on. The class and teacher turned to look at the door. "Come in," Ms. Asagi called out. The door lid open to reveal a familiar face to Asagi. "Mr. Kazuma, what are you doing here?" she asked. The glasses-wearing teacher waved to the class before walking up to her. "Ah, yes, Ms. Asagi, listen. One of my students had seen the paper advertising the camping trip tomorrow morning, and one of my students wanted to know if would be able to join," the brown-haired educator said. Ms. Asagi nodded, but frowned. "It would be able to be done. But won't you have to teach your class, Mr. Kazuma?" she asked, adjusting her bangs simultaneously. "Actually, I can't. My Oba-chan is in the hospital. She fell down the last few stairs and dislocated her shoulder and also had a heart attack. Lucidly, my cousin was staying with her, so the family and I are going to see her." "Oh my, that's terrible. Is she all right?" "Mama, she's okay. Oba-chan is a tough old bird. Anyways, due to this predicament I will not be able to teach. I have informed the principal, and he said my class does not have to come to school tomorrow. Anyways, is my student allowed to join the camping trip?" Mr. Kazuma asked, adjusting his rectangular framed glasses. Ms. Asagi nodded. "Of course, I'll just need his name and—" "No need, he can tell you himself. You can come in now," Mr. Kazuma called out into the hallway. Everyone turned and waited a few seconds, but no one came in. Mr. Kazuma frowned and looked out into the hallway to see his student texting on his cell phone. "Oi, you can come in now." The student pressed send on his touch-screen phone before pocketing it. The boy followed his teacher and the others gasped or looked confused as they saw who it was. "Naruto, what are you doing here?" Takato asked. Naruto smirked and he waved to the young reddish brown-eyed boy. "Well, as Mr. Kazuma was explaining to Ms. Asagi just now, I am interested in joining the camping trip tomorrow," Naruto said with his foxy grin spread across his face. "Well, Naruto, you have my permission as well as Mr. Kazuma's by the looks of things, so I guess you won't need a permission slip," Ms. Asagi said before taking out the itinerary sheet. "Here's the list of things you should bring with you for the 2-day trip as well as the activities we will be doing." The blonde nodded and took the sheet. "Arigato, Ms. Asagi," before he turned and left the class with Mr. Kazuma pausing as he turned to Takato and spoke a silent message to him. The brown-haired preteen understood the look in Naruto's eyes. "If you bring Gilman, watch him carefully. with Rika. Rika was as bored as hell as she stared at her teacher. The man was explaining the laws of Sir Isaac Newton, in which Rika was slightly paying attention to as she was still thinking about the date she and Naruto had 3 days ago. Naruto had been busy after that night, school, keeping up his cover that he was not an extraterrestrial visitor from another universe, since some people had accused him of being the boy who ran up the side of a building or ran by them at speeds humans should not be capable of. Having told her of these things when they managed the few seconds of conversation they had before he had to run to make sure DORUMON didn't eat all the ramen. He managed to weasel his way out by using his quick thinking and excuses. Also, he was being hounded by the paparazzi since they recognized him from his date with the daughter of the famous fashion model. Poor Naruto, she thought. Her phone vibrated in the pocket of her uniform's skirt. She looked down at her pocket and then up at her teacher, who was writing an equation on the board. She quickly took out her cell phone and pressed the center button. The screen became filled with light and color before she clicked the messages icon. From Naruto, she thought as she opened it and began reading. Gargomon, for avoiding you these past few days. With the accusations and the paparazzi hounding me, you'd think they would have something better to do, lol. Anyways, I am allowed to go on a 2-day camping trip with Takato's and Henry's classes for tomorrow and the day after that. I was wondering if you would be able to tag along. Ask your Oba-chan, Seiko-san, if you are able to come. Your Aka-chan will probably want to know also, since you told she's been with you since our little get-together. Reply when you can. Love you, Rika-chan, Naruto. Rika blushed lightly at the love part. She knew he was teasing her, but couldn't help but think that he meant it. She began to reply when a loud voice filled the room. Rikanonaka. Rika's head shot up from resting it on the desk, so as to make it appear she was sleeping. Hi, Mr. Tashinoka, she asked. What are you doing sleeping in my class? If you do it again, I will have to send you to the principal's office. If you weren't one of my best students, Rika, I would make you feel mental stress like you wouldn't believe, he said. You're causing the stress right now, asshole, she thought with a slight roll of her eyes. Hi, Mr. Tashinoka, she replied before taking her pencil case and resting it against her hands so as to conceal her phone as she replied to Naruto. Hi, I understand your pain, Naruto, lol. Sure, I'll ask Oba-chan if I can go. See you when I can. Love you too, Whiskers, Rika. She sent the message before pocketing the phone and returning to the lesson that she was currently trying to understand. What the hell is a Pascal? She thought. Time skip after school. So guys, are you excited about the field trip? Henry asked as he walked alongside Naruto and Takato. Terrierman was with Susie, so the commentating Digimon left room for pauses in between the conversation. For once, yeah, I mean, I've never been in the forest before. It must be so cool, seeing all sorts of animals and stuff. I wonder if any Digimon are in the forests, Takato said. The eldest of the 3 Tamers chuckled. Well, Takato, the woods can sometimes be a bit disappointing and not meet your expectations, Naruto said. Also, I was wondering that myself. Digimon tend to be in the populated areas, but I wondered if there were any outside of Shinjuku. Naruto wondered. The trio was silent until Henry decided to break the ice. So Naruto, is your beloved Rika-chan coming with us on the field trip too? Henry asked, earning snickers from himself and Takato. Naruto shrugged. I don't know, she replied to my text and told me she had to ask Seiko-san first. He replied, who's Seiko-san? Her Oba-chan. The 2 preteens nodded in understanding before they split up. Remember, Naruto, 7 o'clock tomorrow, Henry reminded the blonde. Naruto nodded to the Asian tamer before heading back around the corner to reach Karyu Street where his apartment resided. When Naruto reached the apartment complex, he climbed the stairs to the floor where his apartment was. As he walked, he wasn't watching where he was going as he was looking for the key in his pocket. As a result, he collided with another and both went tumbling to the ground. Oi, watch where you're going, you little. The voice stopped as Naruto looked up at the person. Naruto's blue eyes stared into violet gray as he stood to his full height. Rika-chan, what are you doing here? He asked. Rika had already finished school and had changed into her regular street clothes. She smirked at him. Well, I was going to tell you I could go to the field trip thing with you, but you weren't home, so I was about to leave. Anyways, seeing as you're here, I got permission from Oba-chan to go on the field trip. She said she would lie to my teacher for me telling him I have a bad case of the flu. Aka-chan just became annoying again about how I'm so hopelessly in love with you and all that stuff, Rika said, rolling her eyes at the part about Makino. Naruto chuckled. Well, aren't you, Rika-chan? He asked. Rika's face became filled with shock before Naruto simply smirked and walked past her, but not before capturing her lips with his own. He then spun her out of his arms and winked at her before going up to the door of his apartment. What was that for? She asked. Naruto opened the door and turned to her, a foxy grin plastered upon his face. Well, isn't natural for a boy to kiss the girl he dates? We are together now, aren't we? He asked. Rika nodded and smirked. I believe so. Good, well see you tomorrow then, Rika-chan, and then he entered the apartment, shutting the door behind him. Rika walked away, a confused look on her face before it changed to happiness. She released a fangirl squeal and jumped up and down from sheer happiness before going down the stairs to leave the apartment complex. I'm his girlfriend, Naruto-kun's girlfriend, she thought. Inside the apartment, Naruto had just rested his bag on the ground before looking around for his partners. He found Gargomon and DORUMON lying down on the couch watching an episode of Digimon Adventure 2. Hey guys, he greeted the two. The two Digimon turned away and smiled at their tamer, turning off the television and running up to the blonde. Naruto, what's up? The ex-antibody holder asked. I hear you're quite the popular guy now. You've been shown a bit on the telly, the feline Digimon spoke. Oh shut up, Gargomon. Oh by the way, you guys will be posing as mine and Rika-chan's stuffed toys tomorrow. We've been allowed to go on a camping trip for 2 days with Takato and Henry, Naruto announced. No problem, Gargomon said, although I still hate the idea of degrading myself to the point of being a mindless stuffed toy. Come on Gato-chan, it's for the good of the field trip, DORUMON said to his feline girlfriend. I know, but that doesn't mean I'll like it. Well, maybe you two could be sealed in these 2 empty scrolls I have. I could then apply the use of Kuchiyos no Jutsu and summon you guys to the campsite, Naruto suggested. After much talking about the positives and negatives of the ideas, they agreed on the use of the Kuchiyos no Jutsu. However, DORUMON began to speak. Are we really doing this for the fun of the trip, or are we going to secretly keep an eye on Gilman and the others while simultaneously looking for any devas that would appear in the unpopulated areas? A bit of all three, Naruto replied. Sweet, the two Digimon replied. Naruto smirked and shook his head before going to pack for the trip. I swear, those two are perfect for each other. The next day, 2 large buses, like the ones from when Naruto went on his field trip to the Digimon gaming factory, were lined up outside the school. Henry stood with Teruman was resting on his head, keeping the stuffed toy act up until they reached the campsite. Henry looked around and spotted Naruto and Rika walking up to him. Naruto, Rika, he exclaimed. The blonde and redhead walked over to the blue-haired boy. So, where's DORUMON, Gargomon and Renamen? Renaмен's going to be following us along the rooftops, Rika replied. Naruto patted 2 of the many pockets on his dark blue pants. DORUMON and Gargomon are sealed into scrolls. I'm going to use Kuchiyos no Jutsu to summon them to the campsite when we arrive there, the blonde tamer answered. Oh yeah, you told me about those kind of things during training. That's where you summon something from another dimension, right? Henry asked. Naruto nodded. Looks like somebody has been paying attention during my training sessions. Naruto smirked and patted Henry on the shoulder. Now where's Takato? Rika asked, looking around the front of the school. As the trio turned to the left, they spotted the goggle-wearing tamer talking to Mizusagi. Now what is he up to? Henry sighed. Maybe he's trying to sweet-talk the teacher into allowing Gilman to come along. The guy's huge, you know, Teruman piped in. Naruto looked and then spied a group of students from Takato's class all forming a circle-like barrier around one individual. Naruto caught sight of a flash of red within the circle and well as the tail that flicked in and out of the barrier a few times. Well, there's your reason, Naruto said, pointing at them. Rika, Henry and Teruman looked to see Gilman in the middle of the circle while Takato distracted Mizusagi by asking her how the camera he had worked. After Gilman got on, Takato began to laugh. Don't worry, Mizusagi, it didn't have any film in it anyway. I forgot, he admitted. He really did forget to put film simply because it was a digital camera. I'm guessing Mizusagi doesn't know that's a digital camera, which is why she bought it. Rika asked. Most likely, the 2 male tamers answered before climbing onto the buses. Kazu, Kenta, Jerry, Takato and one of Jerry's friends sat on top of Gilman so that Mizusagi wouldn't see him until she sat down. Look guys, Kyubimon saved us some seats, Naruto pointed out. The cute little cream puff Digimon chuckled and waved to Naruto. Over here, Naruto. Naruto and Rika took those seats, sitting next to each other, while Henry took the one behind their chair. Mizusagi stood up and looked around. Okay, everyone, this trip will be a few hours long, so until then please no rough housing on the bus. Please don't do anything that will hurt yourselves either. Mizusagi then turned around and sat down and took out 2 earplugs, 1 for each ear. She sighed as the sound of loud students was immediately blocked out and replaced with silence before she drifted off to sleep. Ah, silence, sweet bliss and music to my aching ears, she thought, and began to snore lightly. Meanwhile around her, students were chatting up a storm. Gilman was finally able to breathe since the combined weight of 5 growing 12-year-old children nearly crushed his spine and lungs. Takato, why are we here in the back? Gilman asked. So no one will see you, especially Ms. Asagi. She might go insane if she saw you and might actually have to go to the psychiatric ward if she did, Takato said with a nervous laugh. Oh, Takato, what's a psychiatric ward? Takato sighed. This was going to be a Luung bus ride. Kenta suddenly grabbed a microphone that Ms. Asagi had used to speak to the students and yelled out to the class. Hey guys, let's sing a song. Kenta yelled and began singing. I wanna rock and roll all night, he began to sing, and quite horribly. Naruto and Rika, who were busy talking to each other, froze as their ears nearly began to bleed. Will somebody please kill the cat that's dying already? He yelled. The bus became silent before bursting into laughter as Kenta slumped his shoulders. Do I really sound that bad? The glasses-wearing boy asked. Naruto got up, leaving Rika for a few seconds. He swiped the microphone from him and held it, gripped in his hands before running and opening the window where he and Rika were nearest to. He opened the glass, plastic shield before throwing the microphone out of the bus and watched as it clattered on the road before it was crushed by the other bus, and then by 3 more cars, followed by a splotch of bird shit landing on it from the heavens. Poor microphone. I knew thee well. I was going to continue singing though, Kenta whined. The older boy placed his hand on Kenta's shoulder. Kenta, is your name right? Naruto asked. The glasses-wearing boy nodded. Listen Kenta, everyone has a talent and everyone has their faults, and singing is one of your biggest, most epic faults ever. Don't ever do that again so as to spare us all a reason to take something and jam it into our ears so as to block out the hideous sound of your voice. Naruto yelled. Gomen Kenta, but it was time you knew. Naruto turned and left a frowning Kenta with the laughing of the rest of the class reaching his ears. So, Naruto-kun, are we really together now, as in boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing? She asked. Naruto held his hand in hers and smiled. Of course, why wouldn't we be? He asked. No reason. Just making sure, she replied quickly with a slight blush. You know, you're cute when you blush, he whispered, causing her to blush a bit more. Shut up, she said, punching her newly proclaimed boyfriend in the shoulder. Itai, Rika-chan, that hurt. He frowned, mock sadness in his eyes. He then performed the kawaii no jutsu. Puppy dog eyes. Kyubimon chuckled from the luggage area above and saw what Naruto was doing. Oh boy, funny face, Kyubimon said, and then flopped down on Naruto's head and joined in the fun of making Rika buckle under the pressure of 2 kawaii no jutsus. Rika remained stoic, but crumbled. Her iron will was melted into liquid state before she finally hugged the blonde. Gomen Nasai, she mumbled. I knew I'd win. I always win with that, he said, earning himself another punch to the shoulder. The resto ride was then quiet as the class fell asleep. Rika had her head leaning on Naruto's shoulder and the blonde's head was resting on her head, his arm enveloping her in a one-armed hug. Finally, the few hours had ended and the bus screeched to a halt, the hiss of the hydraulics filling the ears of the tired students, having just woken up. One of the other students went and removed the earplugs from Ms. Asagi's ears and woke her up. She quickly stood up before sitting back down from the head rush. Okay people, listen up, you will all split up into different sections. The girls are with me, the boys are with Mr. Mori. Also be sure to peg down your tents well, the winds tend to blow a bit stronger out here in the wild. Rika took her stuff and left with Ms. Asagi, but not before pecking Naruto on the cheek. I'll see you after I finish setting up the tents, she said. Same here, the blonde replied. He sighed and took a deep breath of fresh air. Having lived in a metropolitan area filled with barely any nature, Naruto was in relief to be back out in the wild. Trees and vegetation filled the surroundings with a healthy green color. Naruto took out his scrolls and opened them before pumping chakra into both. Kuchiyos no jutsu, he yelled. Dorumon and Gargomon appeared from the inside of the pocket dimension they were in. It's about time. We were starting to freeze in there, Dorumon shivered. With no source of heat, the pocket dimension was a cold, dark void, so the 2 Digimon, having arrived in the same dimension, had to huddle together for warmth. Not that either of them complained about the snuggling, but the cold left a bit to be desired. Well, here we are, natural wildlife, Naruto said. He then told the 2 to go hide in the bushes until Mr. Mori left. They complied and the 2 Digimon partners quickly fled, peeking through the leaves though in order to monitor the area. So where's Gilman? A voice asked. The 2 recognized the voice as Renamon's, and therefore did not react in any way that would have frightened the blonde Kitsune. No idea, he was on the bus, but he disappeared. Dorumon smelt the air before turning to the left. A large tree was blocking him, so the purple-furred dragon looked around the tree and found the large red dinosaur Digimon hiding poorly behind a bush that was obviously a bit too small to hide behind. Gilman, Gargomon whispered. Gilman's bat-like ears twitched before he turned and spotted his fellow Digimon. Oi, Dorumon, Gargomon and Renamon. Gilman chuckled as he walked over to them. You came, I thought it would have just been me, Terrierman and Kalumon. Hooray, more fun. Yeah, well we're going to have to lay low until we do something that will allow us to leave the company of those chaperone teachers, or if it's night, Dorumon said. Naruto sighed as he watched Mr. Mori attempt to put up another tent in order to impress Mizusagi with his wilderness survival skills, and those skills downright sucked. Mr. Mori, are you sure you don't need help? Takato, Henry and Naruto asked. The older man nodded, but the tent looked nothing like it did on the box. The tent poles were jutting out at wrong angles. Parts of it were on the verge of being torn while Mr. Mori lay tangled in the wire used to aid in tying down the tent pegs. Naruto sighed before grabbing Mr. Mori by his hand and yanking him out. You know, Mr. Mori ... The other guys got their tents up just fine, he said, gesturing to the students' tents that were already up. I'm sure we can do ours. You don't need to impress Mizusagi, and besides, even if you did, putting up a tent not a good way to pick up a girl. Naruto, please, I know what I'm doing, Mr. Mori said, but tripped on a wire and fell to the ground. Naruto sighed before finally taking over. He put up the cloth, used the poles to provide stability before pegging the corners down into the ground and using the wire by tying each peg to one another to form a square borderline around the tent. They're all done, Naruto said. Rika and Mizusagi had walked up during the time Mr. Mori had been decommissioned by Naruto, as the blonde had taken over the tent preparation. When the Jinchuriki tamer finished, he turned to see the two females watching him with impressed looks. I've camped out a lot. I could even forage off the land and get us some food. Anyone interested in deer and fish? He asked. No, the camp chorused. How did everyone hear that? He asked himself. Oi Kit, Kyubimon, it's been a while. What's with the period of silence? Naruto thought to his Biju. It has, hasn't it? I haven't really been needed during your times to fight. I only help in certain parts of your battles, such as when we fought Mihraman and I gave you one tale of my power. Also, you haven't spoken to me. Your mate over there has kept you quite occupied along with the other Digimon that bio-emerge. Oh hey, wait a minute, Rika-chan is not my mate. Naruto yelled. So you say. It's kind of sad though that these humans can't even survive off the land like we did back in our universe. They have become too reliant on technology. The only things worth building were the computers, cell phones, and the automatic fur scratcher, belly rubber, flea cleaner device. I could use one of those. Yeah. Why do you need a flea cleaner? You're made of chakra. Chakra can't get fleas. Who's the giant kitsune with fur? Is your name Kyubimon no Kitsune? Most powerful of the 9 Biju? No, I think not. Besides, you're related to a bunch of monkeys with only a 2% difference in DNA. Monkeys eat the damn fleas. Also, I am the one with fur. I think I would know if I had fleas. Naruto paused. The fox did have a point. True, but humans are nothing like monkeys. That 2% difference is what makes us dominant. Besides, I have opposable thumbs. Hot take that Kyubimon. If you haven't noticed, I have a 5th claw too that acts as an opposable thumb, you retarded, hairless monkey. Kyuso, I thought I would have gotten you with the opposable thumbs bit, Naruto thought. Naruto Mizusagi called out to the blonde who had been staring for a while, and his gaze was a bit below her neck, meaning he was looking at her. Naruto, goddamn, answer me. Naruto's head shot up and his eyes became focused. Huh? Who? What? Where? He frantically searched around, grabbing Rika bridal style and hiding behind a tree for cover as a part of reflex. The 2 teachers and the 3 younger tamers looked at the teenage Jinchuriki with confused looks. Gomen, reflex action. While I was camping, I've nearly been mauled by raccoons and other furry creatures. Had to keep my guard up and improve my reflexes, he explained. Mr. Mori and Mizusagi bought it and nodded before making an announcement. Okay people, listen up. Mizusagi pulled a megaphone out from her backpack. Are you all finished putting up your tents? She asked. Hi Mizusagi. The children chorused. Good, because now we are going to go for a little swim in the nearby river if anyone's interested. The class immediately agreed, for the sun was blazing down on them like it wanted to turn them into cooked eggs on the sidewalk. After changing into their swimsuits, the boys and girls quickly set off with their teacher supervisors, who had also changed and headed for the river. As the class went towards the river, Naruto tilted his head as he viewed Rika's ass from another angle of his perspective. The red-haired girl turned and noticed this out of the corner of her eye. She smirked and winked at the blonde, who grinned cheekily and made an okay sign. Upon reaching the river, the boys shed their t-shirts before they joined the girls in just their swimsuits as they plunged into the refreshingly cold waters of the still, calm river. The game of chicken was then ensued, with Naruto and Rika against any opposing challenger. The duo was assuring victory over Kenta and Kazu before Takato and Jerry decided to try their luck. Naruto smirked at Takato, who were carrying their teammates on their shoulders. Give up, Takato, you cannot defeat us. If you strike me down, I will come more powerful than before, Takato said. You need to stop watching Star Wars, Rika inquired as she recognized the line was from Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode IV, A New Hope. Hey, it's a good show, Naruto and Takato retorted in defense. The game ensued with Rika and Naruto obviously becoming the victors. The four Tamers were then drying themselves off as they watched Mr. Mori attempt to rub sunscreen on Mizusagi's back and failing as he was grabbed by his arm, and with a surprising feat of skill and strength, the female educator threw her fellow educator over her shoulder and into the freezing waters of the river. Wow was all that everyone who had seen the wrath of Mizusagi could say. Henry and Takato were sitting by the edge of the river while Naruto and Rika rested next to each other under the shade of a tree. They were a good few meters away from the rest of the group so as to keep the Digimon who were currently playing a game of tag in the river out of their range of sight. Gargomon being the only one out of water since cats naturally hate water. However, just in case, Naruto casted a low-level genjutsu to surround the Digimon in order to hide them from the sight of the other students and the two teachers, as well to make the splashing seem like Takato and Henry were the cause of it. Such a bunch of losers you guys are, Maman said as the scarf-wearing Digimon appeared on a branch. The Tamers and their Digimon stopped playing as they glanced up at the rookie-level Digimon. Oh, hey Maman, the group said with distaste. Gilman looked at the fellow rookie and noticed something in the annoyed, angry look of Impmon's eyes. Loneliness. Oi, Impmon wanna play with us? Gilman asked. What, why would I play with you freaks? Impmon asked with a flabbergasted look on his pale white face. Because it's fun. I bet you wouldn't be so grouchy if you had someone to play with, Gilman said. Everyone looked at the red-scaled dinosaur. What the hell? Impmon thought. Since when did Gilman seem so insightful? The others thought. No way I'm gonna play with losers like you, Badaboom. Impmon commented before turning his back. Sore loser, Dorumon said. Impmon froze before turning back to face them. You think I can't win a game of tag with you Digibakas? Well, I'll show you, Badaboom. Impmon jumped headfirst into the waters and chased after the others. Naruto watched Impmon, studying the Digimon's face, and noticed the smirk that formed. Seems Gilman was right, he mumbled. What was Gilman right about? Rika asked her boyfriend. Impmon really is alone, unlike the other Digimon. Impmon seems to have been alone in the real world his entire life. But the loathing of humans shows that he actually had a human partner, but they probably didn't treat him right, Naruto sighed. Well, at least someone understands, because I sure don't, Rika said. Naruto chuckled before he bent down and kissed Rika, earning a few whistles from some of the Digimon-aware students that were watching. Naruto smirked during the kiss before looking up at the whistling and cheering students before sticking his tongue out playfully. After a few minutes, the Digimon climbed out. Impmon turned to leave, but was stopped as he heard his name. Impmon, where are you going? Naruto asked. Well, I'm done playing games with you Bakas. I'm going for a walk to clear my head. I have to think about some things, the midget Digimon said. Naruto nodded and let the Digimon go. Oi, Mina, wanna go for a walk? Naruto asked his friends. The others nodded. Renamon appeared from her tree as she didn't go swimming and nestled down on the grass. Sure, the gang chorused. Naruto nodded and then looked to Mizusagi before running up to her. Mizusagi, Rika-chan, Takato, Henry and I are going for a little walk in the woods, he said. Nanny, are you crazy? You could get lost. The teacher said with a surprised look. Don't worry, I camped here a few times with my uncle when I was younger. I know this place like the back of my hand, he lied, showing the foxy grin for good measure for her to buy his lie. Mizusagi frowned, but complied in the end. Alright, fine, but be back by. Mizusagi grabbed Naruto's arm and looked at his watch. Be back by sunset. I don't want to lose you for. Understood, Mizusagi. Naruto gave a mock salute, earning a chuckle from the older woman before the blonde turned and left. Strange boy. I like him. As the group wandered through the woods, their Digimon in tow, they came out of the edge of the forest and found themselves by a cliff where a rope bridge hung over a deep gorge. Gilman smirked as he spotted a tree stump and did a handstand. Oi, Mina, look, I'm doing it. I'm standing on my hands, Gilman cheered. The others chuckled as the other Digimon began to join the Tower of Digimon. Atop Gilman's feet, Dorumon also did a handstand, balancing on Gilman's feet. Gargomon landed feet first with cat-like grace atop Dorumon's own feet before holding out her arms. Renamon stood on the feline Digimon's hands, and then Terriermon balanced on the fox Digimon's head using his extremely long ear, while Kalumon stood on Terriermon's foot. The weight of several Digimon nearly caused Gilman to lose his balance, but he managed. Well, this is nice, isn't it? Henry asked. Well, think we should go back now? Rika asked. Takato frowned. Are you crazy? And ruin this perfectly good totem pole, he said, gesturing to the Tower of Digimon that suddenly began to wobble. Naruto took out his cell phone and took a picture of the Digimon totem pole. He smirked as he looked at the picture. Nice shot if I do say so myself. The other Tamers looked at the picture and agreed. Picture time. Takato yelled and swiped the phone. Naruto growled at Takato as the goggle-wearing tamer took a picture of Naruto glaring at him. However, his glare was suddenly replaced with deer in the headlights eyes as Rika kissed him on the lips. Takato snapped the shot, and again when Naruto returned the kiss. Henry took the camera this time and turned to take a picture as the totem pole of Digimon collapsed. In the shot it showed the tangling of many limbs as the Digimon fell onto the ground. Many other pictures were taken with Naruto's phone. One of him standing with his badass mode as he folded his arms and looked over the gorge from atop a tree, and a serious look on his face. Another was with Gilman having a staring contest with Kyubimon, and then one where Kyubimon shifted and began to have a contest with a rock. There was another with Kyubimon by himself and a big smile on his face, ears expanded. Another was with Naruto and Henry having a sparring match with each other, followed by a picture of Terrierman and Renamon smirking and giving a thumbs up as they watched Dorumon and Gargomon make out. Another picture was with an enraged Gargomon about to swipe at Terrierman's frightened face while Dorumon tried to hold his girlfriend back, although the reluctance could be seen in his face after all the dog bunny was spying on them. The last one being taken by a Cageman Naruto made to take a picture of the entire group. Gilman was lying down flat, a toothy smile present on the reptile virus Digimon's face as Kyubimon rested atop his head. Renamon was kneeling next to Rika, who was sitting next to Naruto, leaning her head on his shoulder, both with smiles on their faces just as the rest of the group did. Dorumon and Gargomon were in the same position as Naruto and Rika except were sitting in front of the two tamers. Henry was sitting cross-legged next to Terrierman, who was resting on his shoulder on the far right, while Takato took his place next to Gilman. "Okay guys, say Digimon." Digimon. The phone's camera let loose a flash of white light as the timer for the picture to be taken went off, and the Cageman looked at the picture before handing it back to his creator, and then dispelled himself. Naruto pocketed his phone and looked at the sky. The sky was still blue, but the faint wisps of red and yellow and pink began to bleed into it as the sun was about to sink below the horizon, which was visible from the cliff they were watching. "Okay guys, time to head back," Naruto ordered. "I promised Mizusagi we'd be back by sunset." The group nodded, but frowned. "I was having fun," Kyubimon and Gilman complained. "You weren't the only one," everyone responded to their whining as they were also reluctant to leave. As the group began to walk through the woods, following the slashes on the side of trees Naruto had made with his kunai on the way, their D-arcs began to beep. Everyone took out their D-arcs, Naruto taking out Dorumon's reddish-violet D-arc. The holographic compass appeared. The red arrow swirled around the blue field of data it rested upon before facing to the north where they had just come from. "Another Digimon. Think it's a Diva?" Henry asked. "We'll have to see." "Come on," Rika said, and the group followed the lone female of the tamers until they reached a tree that the compass was pointing at. The tamer looked around the tree before looking up at the branches of the tree. A small digital field formed as the Digimon formed. They all sweat dropped at what came from the digital portal. "You can't be serious," Rika said. The Digimon was in form of a small metallic rooster made of golden metal. The chest area was blue with 2 golden circles on the pectoral area along with a few black symbols on the blue armor. Its wings were tucked in and a scarf was worn around its neck. The rooster's crest was made of red feather and its tail was a rainbow of colors as it flowed behind the newly arrived Digimon. "Why is there a chicken in the woods?" Naruto asked. "I was thinking the same thing," Dorumon and Gargomon said. "I'm not getting anything on my D-arc," Henry added. "Same here," Rika and Takato, failing to receive any information on the Digimon. "Well, it's pretty small, so we should leave it alone. Let's go back to camp," Naruto said. The group nodded and turned to head back when suddenly the rooster's eyes glowed crimson, and a nearby owl whose large black eyes became filled with the same crimson color. The owl twisted its head and looked at the tamer and Digimon as they walked away. "I assure you I am no chicken," the owl said in voice that was similar to that of a wannabe ghost. The tamers and their Digimon were too far away, however, as the owl had spoken. The rooster Digimon seemed to frown at his owl medium. "Why does everyone always leave when I'm about to speak?" the rooster thought, voicing it through the owl. However, during the night the Digimon got up and growled, alerting their tamers. "What's up, Dorumon?" Gargomon, Naruto asked as his waking up also caused Rika to rise. "Renamon, there's something wrong," Terrierman said, and the Digimon quickly took off towards the forest. Their tamers, in their pajamas and their sneakers without socks on their feet, began to follow the Digimon into the depths of the foliage. They continued to follow Gilman, Dorumon, Gargomon, Terrierman, Renamon, and Kyubimon until they reached the rope bridge. The Digimon paused, taking a sniff of the air as the wind shifted before crossing the bridge. The tamers followed their hyperactive Digimon across the bridge before reaching the edge where a metal fence was put up so people could watch from a cliffside the tall buildings of Shinjuku. The lights acted as flashing colors to brighten up the darkened sky until the Digimon and their tamers paused in their run to see the chicken Digimon from earlier. "Oi, what the hell is wrong with you guys? It's just the chicken from earlier," Naruto said. "Yeah, calm down," Henry said, momentarily. The Digimon stared at the metallic piece of poultry and everyone stared in awe as the two metal discs on its chest suddenly glowed with yellow light. The light stretched out over the body of water that separated Shinjuku from the forested area where the group was currently residing. The lights of Shinjuku suddenly began to shift between colored and pitch black before remaining in darkness. A blackout. The electricity traveled through the air and struck the giant rooster. It then shifted its head and turned to face the tamers. The owl it had possessed earlier appeared, glowing red eyes staring into their own. Then they looked to see the small little rooster begin to grow in size as electricity poured into its body through the two metal discs on its chest. The rooster let out a cry of triumph after absorbing the electricity before cock-a-doodle-doodling at the children and their Digimon. "The Diva shall destroy you all," the owl screeched in its wannabe ghost voice. You possessed a poor defenseless owl. What the hell is wrong with you?" Naruto asked the giant chicken, causing everyone in the vicinity to sweat drop. "Well, I can only communicate through this owl or basically any other type of bird here since I am made of metal and cannot really speak that well," the newly pronounced Diva said. Naruto sighed. "It's late. Did you really have to suck out the electricity in Shinjuku?" Naruto asked. Yes," the rooster Diva replied. "Well, I want to do it tomorrow. We'll fight then, okay?" "No, I will not be denied again." The rooster crowed. "I have always been looked down upon as one of the weakest of the Diva, but now I shall." The rooster's speech was ruined as Dorumon and Gargomon charged forward and grabbed the rooster Diva and flung it into a tree before attacking with Hyper Dash Metal and Nico Kick. The Diva flew through several trees and crashed into a boulder as it fell unconscious. "I'm going back to bed. I'm not suited for this kind of shit," Naruto and his partners mumbled before they headed back to the campsite. The others stared at the destruction caused by the feline and furred reptile Digimon before following Naruto, Dorumon and Gargomon back to the campsite. "He's right though, we're not suited for the shit that just happened," they all thought. As they arrived back in the campsite, they had all immediately fallen back to sleep. Kyubimon lay down with Naruto and Rika, who were laying down next to Gargomon and Dorumon. However, one thought coursed through Kyubimon's mind before he fell asleep. "What is shit?" he thought. "Hypno's HQ. Yamaki, there's been a sudden blackout. Luckily our emergency power generator was able to respond quickly enough so that we didn't lose our data," Riley said. Yamaki played with his cigarette lighter and nodded. "Good. Make sure to find the source of that blackout though. Apparently we might be one of the few buildings in Shinjuku with power right now," Yamaki said. Riley nodded and quickly began to type away on her colorful keyboard. "I really should get a raise," the red-haired woman thought with a yawn. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 6. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author KitsuneDragon on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.